She asked me why I looked so calm lately. I told her the truth would come soon enough. That was 3 weeks ago, and I remember the exact moment everything changed. Not the moment I found out. That came earlier, in pieces, like a puzzle assembling itself in the corner of my eye while I pretended not to notice. No, the moment that mattered was when I decided to stop pretending. My name is David Fletcher. I'm 42 years old, and I work as a facilities operations supervisor for a commercial property management company in Charlotte, North Carolina. That means I have access to 15 buildings across the metro area, security camera footage, maintenance schedules, and about 200 key codes. It also means most people assume I'm just the guy who fixes the air conditioning. People see the uniform, navy blue polo with the company logo, work boots that have seen better days, the tool belt that hangs on my hip, and they make assumptions. They think I'm simple, straightforward, the kind of man who shows up on time, does his job, goes home, and doesn't think too hard about anything. They think I'm background noise in their important lives. They're wrong about that, but I let them believe it. My wife's name is Christine. She's 40, works in healthcare administration at a regional nonprofit, and for the past 11 years, I've watched her climb from intake coordinator to executive director. She's smart, organized, and respected. Everyone says so. Her staff loves her. Her board trusts her. At fundraisers, she works the room like a politician, remembering names, making connections, laughing at jokes that aren't funny because the person telling them writes checks. I used to admire that about her, the way she could navigate complex social situations, the way she could make people feel seen and valued. I thought it was a gift. Now I wonder if it was always just performance. At home, she barely looks at me. David, did you pick up the dry cleaning? David, the garbage disposal is making that noise again. David, I need you to move your car. I'm expecting someone. Never a thank you, never a smile, just instructions, delivered in that flat tone she reserves for subordinates. I used to think it was stress. Long hours, big responsibilities, the weight of managing people's lives. I made excuses for her the way you make excuses for weather. It just is what it is. But weather doesn't lie. It started small. A Wednesday in late September. I came home early because a sprinkler main burst at the Piedmont Plaza building and we had to shut down half the system. Water everywhere, tenants evacuating their offices, Gary yelling into his phone at the plumbing contractor. We got it under control by noon, but I was soaked through, covered in mud from crawling through the access tunnel. I told Gary I was calling it a day. I walked in through the garage at 2:47 p.m. I remember because I checked my phone to see if Christine had texted about dinner. She hadn't. She never did anymore. Her car was in the driveway. That wasn't unusual. She worked from home sometimes, took calls in her office upstairs, Zoom meetings with donors and department heads. But when I opened the door from the garage into the kitchen, I heard her voice coming from the living room. Not the office. She was laughing. Not the polite laugh she used at charity dinners, the one that sounded rehearsed and hollow. Not the tired laugh she gave when someone at the grocery store made small talk. This was different, real, the kind of laugh that comes from somewhere deep, unguarded, the kind you give to someone who makes you feel young again. Not the polite laugh she used at charity dinners, the real one, the one I hadn't heard in maybe 2 years. I stood there in the doorway, one hand still on the knob, and listened. My heart was pounding, but my breathing stayed steady. I've always been good at staying calm on the outside, even when everything inside is breaking apart. No, you can't say that, she said, voice light, almost girlish. Someone will hear. Pause. I know, I miss you too. Another pause, longer. I could hear the smile in her voice, could picture her sitting on the couch with her legs curled under her, phone pressed to her ear. That look on her face, the one I used to see when we first started dating, back when I could make her laugh like that. Tomorrow, same time, I'll text you when I'm close. I moved fast. Not toward her, toward the stairs. I climbed them quickly, quietly. 22 years of walking on old floors teaching me which boards creak. The third step from the bottom, the landing at the top, the loose board outside the bathroom. I avoided them all. By the time she ended the call and came into the kitchen, I was in the upstairs bathroom running the sink, splashing water on my face, looking at my reflection. My face was calm, blank, like I'd just walked in and hadn't heard a thing. David? She called up. Yeah, just got home, I said. Pipe burst at Piedmont. Okay, I'm heading out in an hour. Dinner's on your own tonight. Sure. She didn't ask where I'd been. She didn't ask how my day went. She didn't even come upstairs to see if I was okay. She just needed me to know she'd be gone. I didn't say anything. I washed my hands, stared at my reflection in the mirror, brown hair going gray at the temples, lines around my eyes that weren't there 5 years ago. a jaw that still looked strong even if everything else felt worn down, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet, because if I confronted her, she'd lie. She'd explain it away, make me feel stupid for even asking, and then she'd be more careful, and I needed her to keep being careless. So I went downstairs, microwaved leftover pasta from 2 nights ago, penne with marinara, the sauce congealed and watery when reheated, and sat at the kitchen table eating in silence while she got ready upstairs. I could hear her moving around, the sound of drawers opening and closing, the hair dryer running for exactly 7 minutes the way it always did, the spray of perfume in the air. When she came down, she was wearing the black blouse she saves for important meetings, her hair freshly curled, perfume I didn't recognize, something floral and expensive, something new. "Board dinner," she said, grabbing her purse from the counter. She didn't look at me. "Don't wait up. Drive safe." She paused at the door, hand on the knob, and glanced back. For just a second, I thought I saw something in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, or uncertainty. But then it was gone, replaced by that smooth, professional mask she wears so well. She left at 6:15 p.m. I tracked her phone. We have one of those family location apps, the kind you set up years ago for emergencies and then forget about, the kind that's supposed to make you feel safer, more connected. She drove south on I-77, then east on Providence Road. She stopped at the Fig Tree, an upscale restaurant near South Park, the kind of place with cloth napkins and wine lists and prices that make you pause before ordering. She stayed there for 3 hours. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. I stayed home, opened a beer, a cheap lager, the kind I buy because Christine complains when I spend money on craft beer, and thought about what comes next. The thing about being underestimated your whole life is you learn to use it. People look at me and see a guy who fixes things, who shows up when they call, who nods and says, "I'll take care of it." They don't see someone who listens, who remembers, who plans. Christine thinks I'm simple. She's thought that for years. I see it in the way she explains things to me, slow and patient, like I might not understand. I see it in the way she dismisses my opinions, changes the subject when I talk, forgets things I've told her. Last month I mentioned that Gary was retiring, that I might have a shot at his position. She said, "That's nice," and went back to her phone. She didn't ask about it again. She thinks I don't notice. That's her first mistake. The next morning, Thursday, she was up early. Shower at 6:00 a.m., out the door by 7:30. She kissed me on the cheek. Routine, mechanical, the kind of kiss you give out of habit, not feeling, and said she had a full day. "I might be late again," she said, pouring coffee into her travel mug. "Strategic planning meeting." "No problem." "There's leftover chicken in the fridge if you want it for lunch." "Thanks." She left, and I watched through the window as her car backed out of the driveway, turned onto the street, disappeared around the corner. I waited until I couldn't see her taillights anymore. Then I went upstairs to her office. She keeps her laptop locked, password protected, the kind of security you'd expect from someone who handles confidential healthcare information. But her iPad sits on the desk, open, connected to her cloud. I didn't hack anything. I didn't need to. I just read what was already there. Emails, mostly work, scheduling threads with staff, budget reviews with the finance director, grant applications to foundations, professional, organized, the kind of correspondence you'd expect from someone competent, but buried in her personal folder, a chain from someone named Andrew. No last name. The emails were short, vague, carefully worded. Looking forward to tomorrow. Same place? Can't stop thinking about you. Nothing explicit, nothing that would sound suspicious to someone reading over her shoulder. But the tone was there, underneath the words. Intimate, familiar. The tone of two people who know each other's bodies, who've built routines around secrecy. I didn't feel anything. No anger, no betrayal, no sadness. Just a cold, clear understanding that this wasn't new. This had been going on long enough for them to have routines, code words, patterns. I scrolled back. 6 months of messages. Maybe longer. The earliest ones were more cautious, more hesitant. Great meeting with you today. Thanks for the advice on the zoning issue. Professional on the surface, but with an undercurrent that felt wrong. By June, the tone had shifted. Wish I could see you tonight. You looked beautiful yesterday. Can't wait for Wednesday. I took photos with my phone. Every message, every date, every timestamp. I didn't rush. I was methodical, careful, making sure the text was clear in each photo, checking that nothing was blurred or cut off. Then I closed the iPad, put it back exactly where I found it, and went to work. At 11 a.m., I got a notification from the location app. Christine was at a medical building off Randolph Road. She'd been there for 40 minutes. I opened Google Maps, looked up the address. The building housed 3 practices, a dermatology clinic, a physical therapy office, and an OB/GYN. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. Then I put the phone away and went back to work. That night, she came home at 8:30. She looked tired, but in a satisfied way, like someone who's had a productive day, someone who's accomplished something meaningful. She kicked off her shoes in the entryway, black heels that cost more than my monthly car payment, dropped her bag on the counter, and opened the fridge. "How was your day?" I asked. I was sitting at the kitchen table, same spot as always, beer in hand. "Long. Busy." She pulled out a bottle of sparkling water, unscrewed the cap. The hiss of carbonation filled the silence. "Anything interesting?" She took a sip, thought about it. "Just meetings. You know how it is." I nodded. "Yeah, I know." She looked at me then, really looked, like she was seeing me for the first time in weeks. Her eyes narrowed slightly, just a flicker of something, suspicion, maybe, or curiosity, something that hadn't been there before. "You seem different," she said. "Different how?" "I don't know. Calmer." I smiled. Not a big smile, just enough. "Maybe I am." She studied me for another second, her head tilted slightly, the way she does when she's trying to figure something out. Then she shrugged and walked past me into the living room. I heard the TV click on, the sound of some reality show she watches when she wants to turn her brain off. Something about housewives in Orange County, all drama and manufactured conflict. I stayed in the kitchen, standing by the counter, and thought about timelines. If she was seeing an OB/GYN, there were limited reasons. Annual checkup, maybe, routine exam, or something else. I thought about the messages. "Can't stop thinking about you." I thought about her schedule. Late nights, vague excuses. The perfume I didn't recognize. The way she'd been dressing differently lately, not dramatically, but enough that I noticed. Skirts instead of pants, blouses that showed a little more, makeup applied more carefully, and I thought about the laugh I heard through the doorway, the one that belonged to someone who still felt young, desired, alive, someone who wasn't married to me anymore, not in any way that mattered. I didn't confront her, not that night. Instead, I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and started building a timeline. Every late night, every meeting, every time she said she'd be somewhere and the location app said otherwise. I built a spreadsheet, color-coded, cross-referenced with her emails and calendar. Blue for confirmed work events, red for discrepancies, yellow for unknowns. There was a lot of red. Patterns emerged. Wednesdays and Fridays, mostly. Afternoons when her schedule said working from home, but her car was 30 minutes away. Dinners that lasted too long. Mornings when she left too early. Conference calls that happened in empty parking lots. I worked on it for 2 hours, losing myself in the data, the organization, the clarity that came from seeing everything laid out in front of me. This is what I'm good at. Systems, patterns, finding the gaps where things don't line up. Christine thinks I fix air conditioners for a living. What I really do is solve problems that other people can't see. When I was done, I had a map of her secret life going back 7 months. Maybe longer, but 7 months was as far back as the location history went. 7 months of lies. 7 months of carefully constructed excuses. 7 months of her pretending to be my wife while building a completely different life with someone else. I saved the file, encrypted it, backed it up to a cloud drive she didn't know I had. Then I closed the laptop and lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling. She was already asleep, breathing steady and deep, one arm draped across her pillow. She looked peaceful, content, like someone who had nothing to feel guilty about. I wondered if she dreamed about him. I wondered if she ever thought about me at all. I wondered if she had any idea what was coming. The ceiling fan rotated slowly above us, the same ceiling fan I'd installed myself 3 years ago when the old one started making noise. I'd spent a whole Saturday on it, balancing on a ladder, reading instructions, making sure everything was secure. Christine had been out that day, some charity event, I think. When she came home, she barely noticed. "Looks fine," she'd said, glancing up for half a second before going back to her phone. That was the moment I should have known. Not about Andrew, not about the lying, but about how little I mattered to her anymore. How invisible I'd become. But I didn't see it then. I just kept fixing things, showing up, being reliable, being furniture, not anymore. I closed my eyes and let the sound of the fan fill my mind. Steady, consistent, inevitable, like what was coming next. Friday morning, Christine left early again. I heard the shower at 5:45 a.m., the sound of her moving through the bedroom in that brisk, efficient way she has. The water ran for exactly 12 minutes, I counted, lying there in the dark, listening to the rhythm of it through the walls. She used to take longer showers, used to sing sometimes, softly, off-key versions of songs she heard on the radio. She doesn't do that anymore. By the time I sat up, she was already dressed, gray slacks, white blouse, her hair still damp. She was standing at the dresser, applying mascara in the mirror, her movements quick and practiced. She didn't notice me watching. "You're up early," I said. She glanced at me in the mirror, didn't turn around. "Meeting at 8. I need to prep." "Want me to make coffee?" "I'll grab something on the way." Same answer she always gives. I used to make her coffee every morning, back when she still sat at the kitchen table long enough to drink it. Back when we still talked before the day started, before the weight of everything else pushed us into separate orbits. She was gone by 6:20. I got up, made coffee anyway, and sat at the kitchen table with my phone. The location app showed her heading downtown toward her office. Normal route, normal Friday. The blue dot moved steadily along I-77, merging with the flow of morning traffic, predictable and familiar. Except it wasn't Friday that mattered. It was what came next. I'd spent the last 3 days studying her patterns, and one thing became obvious. She was predictable. Not in a boring way, in a confident way. She believed she was careful, that her schedule looked legitimate, that her excuses made sense. She believed I wasn't paying attention. That's the second mistake. I work in property management, which means I deal with schedules every day. Maintenance logs, contractor timelines, security rounds, tenant move-ins. Everything runs on calendars, overlapping systems, people assuming no one's tracking the details. But someone always is. Usually me, and now I was tracking Christine. I poured myself a second cup of coffee, black, no sugar, sat at the table and watched the morning light creep across the kitchen floor. Outside, the neighborhood was waking up. Garage doors opening, cars backing out of driveways, the distant sound of a leaf blower somewhere down the street. Normal suburban Friday morning. Everyone going about their business, their routines, their carefully organized lives. I wondered how many of them were lying to each other. By 8:30 a.m., her location hadn't moved. She was at her office, probably in her morning meeting, doing whatever executive directors do when they're managing a nonprofit with a staff of 42 and a budget that runs in the millions. I imagined her sitting at the head of a conference table, tablet in front of her, voice steady and authoritative, everyone nodding along. She's good at that. Good at making people believe she's in control, that she has all the answers, that she's the person they should trust. I used to believe it too. I imagined Andrew sitting somewhere across town, checking his phone, waiting for her text. I didn't know who Andrew was yet. No last name in the emails, no photos, no details beyond the vague, careful language people use when they think they're being discreet. But I'd figure it out. People leave trails. They always do. They think they're careful, but they get comfortable. They make assumptions. They forget that every text message, every email, every credit card transaction is a breadcrumb someone else can follow. At 9 a.m., I clocked in at the Meridian Center, a 12-story office building near the university. My supervisor, Gary, was already there, clipboard in hand, walking the perimeter like he does every morning. Gary's been with the company for 30 years, knows every building, every system, every quirk. He's the kind of guy who can hear a motor running wrong from 50 feet away, who can tell you which contractor will cut corners before they even start the job. "David, you got a second?" "Yeah, what's up?" "Tenant on 9 is complaining about temperature control. Says her office is 10 degrees hotter than everyone else's." I nodded. "I'll check the zone dampers. Probably stuck again." "Thanks. Let me know if it's something bigger." I took the service elevator up to 9, walked the floor, checked the thermostat readings. 72 degrees in the hallway, 84 in the corner office. Everything looked normal from the outside, but that's always how it is with climate control. The problem's usually hidden, somewhere in the guts of the system. I went into the utility room, pulled the panel off the climate control unit, and ran diagnostics. One of the dampers was jammed. Easy fix, 10 minutes of work. I loosened the actuator, cleared the blockage, tested the airflow. Fixed. While I was there, I noticed the security camera in the hallway. Small black dome mounted in the corner, blinking red light barely visible. Standard model, feeds into a central system we monitor from the main office. I thought about Christine's office building. Same setup, same cameras, same blind spots, if you know where to look. I thought about the model home at Crescent Ridge, wondered if they had cameras yet. Probably not. Construction sites don't usually install security until the final phase, when there's actually something valuable to protect. I finished the repair, logged it in the system, and went back downstairs. Gary was in the break room, pouring coffee from the pot that's been here since before I started. It's burnt, bitter, but Gary drinks it anyway. Says it keeps him sharp. All good? He asked. Yeah, damper jam. Fixed it. You're a lifesaver. I smiled. Just doing my job. That's what people say about me. Reliable, steady. The guy who shows up and gets it done. No drama, no complaints. I've worked for this company for 16 years, and in that time, I've been written up exactly once, for taking too long on a lunch break. My performance reviews say things like consistent, dependable, trustworthy, words that mean invisible. Christine used to joke about it. You're like a golden retriever, she said once, back when she still joked with me. Everyone loves you because you're just so nice. She didn't mean it as a compliment. I remember the exact moment she said it. We were at a company holiday party 3 years ago. I was talking to one of her coworkers, helping him figure out why his laptop kept overheating. Simple fix, dust in the fan. Christine walked by, heard me explaining it, and made that comment. Then she laughed and moved on to talk to someone more important. I finished fixing the laptop. The guy thanked me. No one else noticed. At 11:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Location update. Christine was moving, heading east on Independence Boulevard. I watched the dot on the map, tracking her path. She turned onto Randolph Road, then stopped at the same medical building as yesterday. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not panic, just certainty. She stayed there for 53 minutes. When she left, she drove north, back toward her office, and by 1:30 p.m., she was at her desk again. Normal Friday, normal schedule. Except it wasn't normal. 2 visits to the same medical building in 2 days. Same time frame, same duration. That wasn't routine, that was deliberate. That night, I got home before her. I parked in the garage, went inside, changed out of my work clothes, and opened a beer. I sat on the back porch, watching the sun drop behind the trees, and waited. She came home at 6:45. I heard her car pull in, heard the door open and close, heard her footsteps in the kitchen. David? Out here. She came to the doorway, leaned against the frame. She looked tired again, but not the satisfied kind. The worn-down kind. Long day? I asked. Yeah. Board keeps changing priorities. I swear I spend half my time managing their expectations. Sounds frustrating. It is. She stood there for a moment, like she was waiting for me to say something else. When I didn't, she turned and went back inside. A minute later, I heard the TV again. I stayed outside until the sky turned black. Then I went in, locked the doors, and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I pulled up my spreadsheet, added today's data. 2 trips to the medical building in 2 days. Same time frame, same duration. I opened a new browser tab, searched the building directory again. The OBGYN office was on the 2nd floor. Dr. Marianne Keller. I clicked through to her website. Middle-aged woman, kind face, practice focused on prenatal care and high-risk pregnancies. I stared at the screen. Then I closed the laptop and sat in the dark. Christine came downstairs an hour later, glass of wine in hand. She looked at me sitting there, no lights on, just the glow from the stove clock. Why are you sitting in the dark? Just thinking. About what? Nothing important. She frowned, took a sip of wine. You've been acting weird lately. Weird how? I don't know. Quiet. Like you're somewhere else. I looked at her. She was standing in the kitchen doorway, backlit by the hallway light, and for a second I saw her the way I used to. Beautiful, strong, someone I wanted to build a life with. Then I remembered the laugh, the messages, the medical building. I'm just tired, I said. She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. Okay. Well, I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late. I won't. She left, and I heard her footsteps on the stairs, the creak of the bedroom door, the sound of water running in the bathroom. I sat there for another hour, thinking about everything I'd learned. Then I went upstairs. She was already asleep, curled on her side, facing away from me. I got into bed, lay on my back, and stared at the ceiling. I thought about confronting her right then, walking over, shaking her awake, demanding answers, but that would be giving in to emotion, to anger, to the part of me that wanted immediate satisfaction. That's not how you win. You win by being smarter, more patient, more strategic than the other person expects you to be. Monday morning, I called in sick. Not completely. I told Gary I had a dentist appointment, rescheduled it for the afternoon, and took a half day. Lying to Gary felt different than lying to Christine. It felt tactical, necessary, part of something larger. He believed me without question. Why wouldn't he? I'd never given him a reason to doubt me. I left the house at 7 a.m., same time as always, but instead of going to the office, I drove to a coffee shop near Christine's work. It was one of those independent places with exposed brick and local art on the walls, the kind where freelancers camp out with laptops and students study for exams. I parked across the street, ordered a black coffee, scalding hot, bitter, and waited. Found a table by the window where I could see the parking garage entrance across the street. The barista was young, maybe 22, with tattoos running up both arms. She smiled when she handed me the coffee. I nodded, didn't smile back. Couldn't afford to be memorable. At 8:10, her car pulled into the parking garage. I watched her walk into the building, briefcase in hand, moving with that purposeful stride she has. Gray suit today, hair pulled back tight. Professional, competent. The version of herself she shows the world. I didn't follow her. I just watched. I sat there for 2 hours, drinking coffee that had gone cold, watching people come and go, office workers grabbing breakfast sandwiches before meetings, delivery drivers unloading boxes, a woman in yoga pants walking a small dog. Normal Tuesday morning in the city. Everyone caught up in their own routines, their own problems, completely unaware that across the street, someone was carefully dismantling someone else's life. At 10:30, her car left the garage again. She drove south toward Randolph Road, and this time I followed. I kept 2 cars back, nothing obvious. Stayed in the right lane, maintained the speed limit, made myself invisible the way I'd learned to be invisible everywhere else. She turned into the medical building parking lot, parked near the entrance, and went inside. She moved quickly, like she was late, or like she didn't want to be seen. I pulled into a spot across the lot, far enough back that she wouldn't notice, even if she looked, and waited. The parking lot was half full. Mostly older sedans, a few SUVs, one pickup truck with contractor logos on the side. I memorized the vehicles, the patterns, noting which spaces seemed to be assigned parking and which were transient. This is what I do. I notice details other people miss. Where the cameras are mounted, which exits have good sight lines, how long people typically stay. She came out 41 minutes later. She walked slower this time, like she was thinking hard about something. Her hand rested on her stomach for just a moment, brief, unconscious. Then she dropped it, looked around the parking lot like she was checking to see if anyone was watching, and got in her car. She sat there for a minute, staring straight ahead through the windshield. I couldn't see her face clearly from this distance, but I could imagine it. The weight of whatever she'd just learned, the calculations she was making. Then she pulled out and drove back toward her office. I didn't follow her this time. I just sat there, engine off, staring at the building. The medical building was 4 stories, red brick, newer construction, professional landscaping out front, the kind that looks expensive but requires minimal maintenance. Automatic doors at the entrance, security camera above the main door. I sat there for a while, organizing my thoughts. Then I got out, walked across the lot, and went inside. The lobby was clean, corporate, beige tile floors, generic landscape paintings on the walls, soft instrumental music playing from hidden speakers. The directory was on the wall near the elevators, printed on a black plaque with white lettering. Second floor, Suite 210. Marianne Keller, OBGYN. I stood there for a long time, reading the names on the directory, memorizing them. Dr. Raymond Park, Dermatology, Carolina Physical Therapy, Blue Ridge Wellness Center, and Dr. Keller. Then I turned around and left. I didn't need to see more. I knew what I needed to know. I got back in my truck, drove to the dentist's office, actually went inside, told the receptionist I needed to reschedule my cleaning, made small talk about how busy work has been, covered my tracks. Then I drove to the Meridian Center and clocked in for the second half of my shift. Gary was in his office, reviewing maintenance logs. He looked up when I walked in. "How was the dentist?" "Fine. Just a cleaning. No cavities." "Good. Listen, we got a call from tenant services. Something about the HVAC on 12. Can you check it out?" "Sure thing." I took the service elevator up, found the problem, thermostat wiring issue, simple fix, and spent the rest of the afternoon working through my regular rounds. Checking filters, testing systems, logging everything in the database. Normal work. Normal Tuesday. But my mind wasn't on the work. It was on Christine, on the timeline I was building, on the pieces that were falling into place. That night, Christine came home late again, 8:15 p.m. She looked exhausted, makeup smudged, hair a little loose from the neat bun she'd left with. "Sorry," she said, dropping her bag. "Emergency meeting. Donor pulled funding. We had to scramble." "That sounds stressful." It was. She poured herself a glass of wine, drank half of it in one go. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." She looked at me then, and for a second I thought she might say something real. But instead, she just smiled, small, tired, and went upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the wine glass she left on the counter, and I started planning what came next. Wednesday morning, I woke up before my alarm. Christine was still asleep, her breathing deep and even. I got out of bed quietly, careful not to wake her, and went downstairs. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. I'd spent the last 2 nights digging, not into Christine's phone, she kept that locked, always with her, but into everything else, her email, her calendar, the location data I'd been tracking. I built timelines, cross-referenced dates, looked for patterns that went deeper than just late nights and vague excuses. And I found something. Her calendar had a recurring event every Wednesday at 2 p.m., marked as site visit. No location, no details. Just those 2 words, repeating every week for the last 3 months. I opened the location app, scrolled back through the history. Every Wednesday at 2 p.m., her phone was in the same place, a development called Crescent Ridge, a new residential community being built on the south side of town. Luxury homes, starting in the high 600s, marketed toward young professionals and retirees. I looked up the developer. Crescent Ridge was a project by Stonebridge Development Group. I clicked through to their website, glossy photos, testimonials, a team page with headshots and bios, and there he was, Andrew Hartwell, Vice President of Acquisitions. 44 years old, MBA from UNC Chapel Hill, 15 years in commercial and residential development. In the photo, he was standing in front of a half-built house, arms crossed, smiling like he owned the world, wedding ring on his left hand. I stared at the photo for a long time, then I saved it, closed the laptop, and went to work. That afternoon, I drove to Crescent Ridge. It was 15 minutes from Christine's office, tucked into a wooded area that used to be farmland. The entrance had a stone sign with the development name carved into it, flanked by decorative iron gates that didn't actually close. I drove through, following the winding road past model homes and construction sites. The place was busy. Contractors, delivery trucks, a few couples walking through open houses with real estate agents. I parked near the sales office, a temporary trailer with Stonebridge's logo on the side, and got out. I didn't go inside. I just walked the site, hands in my pockets, looking around like I was a potential buyer. No one stopped me. No one asked questions. I was just another guy in work boots and a jacket, blending into the background. I walked past the framed houses, the piles of lumber, the dumpsters full of scrap. I saw the crew supervisors checking blueprints, the electricians running wire, the plumbers arguing about pipe placement, and I saw Andrew Hartwell. He was standing near the back of the development, talking to a contractor. Same smile as in the photo, same confident posture. He was wearing a button-down shirt and khakis, no tie, sleeves rolled up like he was ready to get his hands dirty, even though he clearly wasn't. I watched him for maybe 30 seconds. He laughed at something the contractor said, clapped him on the shoulder, then pulled out his phone and walked away, already focused on the next thing. I didn't approach him. I didn't need to. I just turned around and walked back to my truck. But I made mental notes. The layout of the site, the location of the sales trailer, the model homes, the construction schedule posted on a board near the entrance. Phase 2 completion, December. Phase 3 groundbreaking, January. Everything on schedule, everything proceeding according to plan. Andrew Hartwell's plan. At 3:47 p.m., Christine's car arrived. I was sitting in my truck, parked at the far end of the lot, windows tinted just enough to make me invisible. I watched her pull up near the sales office, watched her get out, watched her smooth her skirt and check her reflection in the car window. She adjusted her hair, touched up her lipstick using the side mirror, took a deep breath like she was preparing for something. Andrew came out of the trailer. He smiled when he saw her, big, genuine, the kind of smile you give someone you're happy to see. Not the polite business smile, the real one. She smiled back, and they stood there for a moment, talking, her hand on his arm, casual, familiar, the body language of 2 people who've touched each other before. Then they walked together toward one of the finished model homes, a 2-story colonial with white siding and black shutters, professional landscaping, stone walkway, the kind of house you see in magazines, the kind of house Christine and I could never afford. The door closed behind them. I sat there for another hour. They didn't come out. The sun moved across the sky. Shadows lengthened. Contractors started packing up for the day, loading tools into trucks, calling out goodbyes to each other. The site gradually emptied, but Andrew's Audi stayed in its spot, and Christine's car stayed right next to it. When Christine's car finally left at 5:02 p.m., I didn't follow her. I already knew where she was going. Home, to me, to pretend everything was normal. Instead, I sat there in the parking lot, engine off, staring at the model home. White siding catching the late afternoon light. Perfect lawn. Perfect windows. Perfect lie. I thought about what was happening inside, What had happened, the routine they'd built, Wednesday afternoons, site visits. I thought about the wedding ring on Andrew Hartwell's hand, and I thought about the medical building, the OB/GYN, the timelines that were starting to line up too neatly. That night, Christine came home at 6:30. She looked flushed, energized, like she'd just finished a workout. "Good day?" I asked. "Yeah, productive." "Where were you?" She paused just for a second. "Site visit. We're partnering with a developer on a workforce housing project. Had to check progress." "Which developer?" "Stonebridge. Andrew Hartwell's the lead. You wouldn't know him." I nodded. "Probably not." She went upstairs to change, and I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the counter. She'd said his name, just like that. Casual. Like it meant nothing. When she came back down, she was wearing yoga pants and a sweatshirt, hair pulled back, face scrubbed clean. She looked younger without the makeup, softer. "I'm thinking takeout," she said. "Thai?" "Sure." She ordered on her phone, then sat on the couch, scrolling through something. I sat across from her in the chair, pretending to watch TV. "David?" I looked up. "Yeah?" "You've been quiet lately. Is everything okay?" "Yeah, just tired." "Work's been rough?" "Not really, just the usual." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, well, if you need to talk, I'm here." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. She was sitting there, pretending to care, pretending to be the concerned wife, and all I could think about was her standing in that parking lot, hand on his arm, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. "I'm fine," I said. She went back to her phone. The food arrived 30 minutes later. We ate in silence, her scrolling, me staring at the TV. When we were done, she took the containers to the kitchen, came back, and said she was going to bed early. "I'm exhausted," she said. "Okay, good night." She hesitated, like she wanted to say something else, but then she just nodded and went upstairs. I stayed on the couch until midnight, thinking. I thought about Andrew Hartwell's wedding ring. I thought about Christine's calendar, her schedule, her carefully constructed excuses, and I thought about the OB/GYN office, the recurring appointments, the way she'd looked flushed and happy when she came home tonight. I thought about timelines. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I called Gary, told him I had a family emergency, took another half day. Then I drove to the public library downtown, signed into one of their computers, and started digging. Andrew Hartwell wasn't hard to find. LinkedIn profile, professional bio, interviews in local business journals. He'd been with Stonebridge for 8 years, led 3 major developments, sat on the board of 2 nonprofit organizations. He was married to a woman named Diane. I found her Facebook profile, private, but her profile picture was public. Blonde, mid-40s, smiling in front of a Christmas tree, 2 kids in the photo with her, teenagers. I looked at that photo for a long time, then I closed the browser, cleared the history, and left. That night, Christine came home on time. 6:01 p.m., like clockwork. "Hey," she said, dropping her bag. "How was your day?" "Fine. Yours?" "Busy. Always busy." She kissed me on the cheek. Routine, automatic, and went to the fridge. "I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow," she said, pulling out a bottle of water. "Just a checkup. I'll probably leave work early." I nodded. "Okay." She looked at me, waiting for more. When I didn't say anything, she frowned slightly. "You sure you're okay?" "Yeah. Why?" "I don't know. You just seem different." "Different how?" She shrugged. "I can't explain it. You're just quieter, calmer." I smiled. "Maybe I'm just relaxed." She didn't smile back. She just stared at me for a second, then turned and walked away. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the bottle of water she left on the counter, and I started planning the next step. Thursday afternoon, Christine left work at 3 p.m. I knew because I'd been watching the location app all day, tracking her movements like I'd done for the past 2 weeks. She drove to the medical building on Randolph Road, parked, went inside. I didn't follow her this time. I didn't need to. I already knew what she was doing there. I sat in my truck outside the Meridian Center, pretending to review maintenance logs on my tablet, and waited. She stayed at the doctor's office for an hour and 7 minutes. When she left, she drove home instead of going back to work. I got home 20 minutes after her. I found her in the kitchen, standing by the sink, staring out the window. She didn't hear me come in. "Hey," I said. She jumped, turned around. "God, you scared me." "Sorry, didn't mean to." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It's fine. I was just thinking." "About what?" "Nothing important." I set my keys on the counter, opened the fridge, pulled out a beer. I twisted the cap off slowly, took a long drink, and leaned against the counter. "How was the doctor?" I asked. She froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. "Fine, just a checkup. Everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's fine." I nodded, took another drink. "Good." She watched me for a moment, then turned back to the window. We stood there in silence, the only sound the hum of the refrigerator and the distant murmur of traffic outside. "David?" I looked at her. "Yeah?" "Why are you smiling?" I hadn't realized I was. I touched my face, felt the corners of my mouth turned up slightly like I was holding on to some private joke. "Am I?" "Yeah, you've been smiling a lot lately." I set the beer down, crossed my arms. "I guess I'm just happy." "Happy about what?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw the way her shoulders tensed, the way her hands gripped the edge of the counter, the way her breathing had changed, shallow, uncertain. "I'm happy," I said slowly, "because you're pregnant." Her face went pale. "And I'm not the father." The silence that followed was absolute. No traffic noise, no refrigerator hum, no sound at all except the blood rushing in my ears. Christine opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. I picked up my beer, took another drink, and watched her. "David, Don't," I said quietly. "Don't insult me by lying." She took a step back, pressed herself against the counter. Her hands were shaking. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Long enough?" "How did you—" "It doesn't matter." She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time, like I was a stranger standing in her kitchen. "David, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain." "Yes, there is. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." She started crying then. Not loud, not dramatic. Just tears running down her face, her chest hitching with quiet sobs. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry." I didn't move, didn't comfort her. Just stood there, drinking my beer, watching her fall apart. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I smiled. Not a big smile, just enough. "You'll find out." I finished the beer, set the bottle on the counter, and walked past her toward the stairs. "David, wait." I stopped at the doorway, looked back at her. "I suggest you call him," I said. "Let him know what's coming." Then I went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were steady, my breathing was calm, my mind was clear. I'd spent 2 weeks gathering information, building timelines, understanding patterns. I'd been patient, methodical. I'd watched her lie to my face, watched her sneak around, watched her build a whole other life while pretending ours still mattered. And now she knew I knew. The first card was played. Downstairs, I heard her moving around, the sound of her phone ringing, her voice low and urgent, talking to someone. Probably Andrew. I lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and waited. An hour later, she came upstairs. She stood in the doorway, eyes red, face blotchy. "Can we talk?" she asked. "There's nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is. Please." I sat up, looked at her. "What do you want me to say, Christine?" "I want you to let me explain." "Go ahead." She came into the room, sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded in her lap. She looked small, defeated. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she started. "I didn't plan it. Andrew and we were working together on the housing project, and we just connected. I know that sounds stupid. I know it doesn't excuse anything, but I need you to understand. It wasn't about you." I almost laughed. "It's never about me." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" She wiped her eyes, took a shaky breath. "I meant that I didn't stop loving you because you did something wrong. I felt invisible, like I was going through the motions every day, and no one saw me. And then Andrew, he saw me, he listened, he made me feel like I mattered." "And I didn't?" "No, yes, you did, but it was different. You were always so steady, so dependable, and I know that's supposed to be a good thing, but sometimes it felt like you were just there, like furniture. Like I could say anything, do anything, and you'd just nod and keep fixing things." I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the street. "So you found someone who made you feel special?" "Yes." "And you decided to build a life with him?" "It's not like that." I turned around. "Then what's it like?" She looked down at her hands. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I needed something for me. Something that wasn't about managing people's expectations or carrying the weight of everyone's problems. I needed to feel alive. And I made you feel dead." "No, David, that's not—" "It's fine," I said. "I get it. You wanted something else. Someone else. And you found him. I'm sorry. I know. She looked up at me, hope flickering in her eyes. So what happens now? I smiled. Same small smile, same calm tone. Now, I said, you wait. Her face crumpled. Wait for what? For me to decide what comes next. David, please. Go downstairs, Christine. Make yourself dinner. Watch TV. Do whatever you need to do. But don't ask me any more questions. She stood up, hands trembling. Can we at least talk about this tomorrow? Maybe. She left, closing the door behind her. I stood at the window for a long time, watching the sunset, the sky turning orange and red and finally dark. And I thought about Andrew Hartwell. I thought about his wedding ring, his 2 kids, his wife Diane smiling in front of a Christmas tree. I thought about the model home at Crescent Ridge, the sales trailer, the construction site, and I thought about leverage. Friday morning, I woke up before Christine. She was still asleep, curled on her side, face buried in the pillow. I got out of bed quietly, went downstairs, made coffee. I didn't go to work. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and started planning. Christine came down at 7:30, dressed for work, moving cautiously like she was afraid to set me off. She poured herself coffee, stood by the counter, didn't say anything. Are you going to work today? She finally asked. Took the day off. Oh. She waited for more. I didn't give it to her. David, can we please talk about this? Not yet. When? When I'm ready. She set the coffee down, crossed her arms. This isn't fair. You can't just shut me out and expect me to sit here and wait. I looked at her. You've been shutting me out for 6 months. I think I can manage one day. That's different. How? She opened her mouth, closed it. No answer. Go to work, Christine. I'll be here when you get back. She stood there for another moment, then grabbed her bag and left. I heard her car pull out of the driveway, listened to the sound fade down the street. Then I opened my laptop and got to work. I'd spent the last 2 weeks gathering information. Now it was time to figure out what to do with it. Andrew Hartwell was the key. Not because he mattered, he didn't, but because he was visible, public, vulnerable. I pulled up his LinkedIn profile again, read through his work history. Stonebridge Development Group, Vice President of Acquisitions. Before that, he'd worked for 2 other firms, both in Charlotte. I Googled those companies, found news articles, press releases, project announcements. Then I searched for his name specifically. 5 results. 3 were professional, interviews about development projects, quotes in business journals. 1 was a charity event he'd attended with his wife. The last was a complaint filed with the Better Business Bureau 2 years ago by a homeowner who claimed Stonebridge had cut corners on construction. The complaint had been resolved, but the details were still public. Structural issues, missed inspections, delayed repairs. I saved the link. Then I opened Google Maps, zoomed in on Crescent Ridge, studied the layout. The development was divided into 3 phases. Phase 1 was complete, 20 homes sold and occupied. Phase 2 was halfway done, 10 homes framed, 5 nearly finished. Phase 3 was just starting, cleared lots, foundation stakes, utility lines. I zoomed in on Phase 2, studied the satellite images. Then I cross-referenced them with the county property records, found the addresses, looked up the buyers. Most were young couples, first-time homeowners. 1 was a retired couple from Ohio. Another was a single woman, mid-30s, relocating for work. Normal people, trusting people. I closed the laptop, leaned back in the chair. Andrew Hartwell had built his career on trust. People believed he delivered quality homes on time, on budget. That belief made him money. Reputation was everything. And reputation could be destroyed. I thought about the model home where Christine met him every Wednesday. I thought about the construction site, the contractors, the half-finished houses. I thought about access. I worked in property management. I had keys, codes, schedules. I knew how to move through buildings unnoticed, how to disable cameras, how to make it look like I was never there. I knew how to find weak points. That afternoon, I drove to Crescent Ridge. I parked at the far end of the development, away from the sales trailer, and walked the site. It was Friday, late afternoon, and most of the crews had already left. A few stragglers remained, a painter finishing trim work, an electrician loading tools into his truck. I walked past them, nodded, kept moving. I found what I was looking for in Phase 2. A house near the back, almost finished. Siding up, windows in, landscaping done. The only thing missing was the final inspection sticker on the front door. I walked around the property, checking sightlines, trees on one side, an empty lot on the other. No cameras visible. Security wasn't installed until after closing. I made a mental note of the address, then walked back to my truck. On the way out, I passed the sales trailer. Andrew's car was still there, A black Audi sedan parked in the reserved spot near the entrance. I stopped, looked at it. Vanity plate, build it. I smiled. That night, Christine came home at 6 wake. She looked exhausted, drained in a way that wasn't physical. She set her bag down, kicked off her shoes, and stood in the entryway like she wasn't sure what to do next. "Did you eat?" I asked. She shook her head. "I made pasta. It's on the stove." She looked at me, surprised. "You made dinner?" "Yeah." She walked into the kitchen, served herself a small plate, sat at the table. I sat across from her, drinking water, watching her eat. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome." We sat in silence for a while. She picked at her food, barely eating. Finally, she set the fork down. "David, I need to know what you're thinking." "I'm thinking a lot of things." "Are you going to leave me?" "I don't know yet." "Are you going to tell Andrew's wife?" I looked at her. "Do you want me to?" "No, of course not." "Then why ask?" She rubbed her face, exhausted. "Because I need to know what's coming. I need to know if you're going to try to ruin my life." "Your life is already ruined," I said calmly. "You just don't know it yet." She stared at me, eyes wide. "What does that mean?" I stood up, took my glass to the sink, rinsed it out. "It means you should have been more careful." "David." "Good night, Christine." I went upstairs, left her sitting at the table. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about leverage. Andrew Hartwell had a reputation to protect. Christine had a career. Both of them had built their lives on the assumption that no one was watching closely enough to see the cracks. They were wrong. I wasn't going to leave Christine. Not yet. And I wasn't going to confront Andrew. Not directly. I was going to take something from him. Something that mattered more than Christine ever could. I was going to take his sense of control. And I was going to make him afraid. And Saturday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. Christine was still asleep. I got dressed in the dark, grabbed my keys, and left the house. The drive to Crescent Ridge took 12 minutes. The sky was still black, no sun yet, just the faint glow of streetlights along the empty roads. I parked 2 blocks away, walked the rest of the distance. The development was silent. No construction noise, no trucks, no movement. Just the skeletal frames of half-built houses and the finished models standing in neat rows. I walked to the house I'd identified yesterday. Phase 2, back corner, almost complete. I checked the windows. No lights, no signs of anyone inside. Not that there would be. The house hadn't closed yet. I pulled a utility knife from my pocket, went to the electrical panel on the side of the house. It was locked, but the lock was cheap, the kind contractors use when they need something temporary. I wedged the blade into the gap, twisted, and the lock popped open. Inside, the breaker panel looked standard. Main breaker at the top, individual circuits below. I studied it for a moment, then pulled the main breaker halfway out. Not enough to disconnect it completely, but enough to create resistance. It wouldn't cause a fire, wouldn't damage anything permanently, but it would cause flickering, surges, inconsistent power. The kind of problem that makes electricians scratch their heads and homeowners question the builder's quality. I closed the panel, snapped the lock back into place, and moved on. Next, I went to the crawlspace vent near the foundation. I unscrewed it, reached inside, found the vapor barrier. I pulled it loose from the staples, creating gaps where moisture could seep in. In a few weeks, maybe a month, mold would start growing. Nothing dangerous, but enough to trigger an inspection failure. I replaced the vent, moved to the next house. Same process. Electrical panel, vapor barrier, small invisible problems that would compound over time. I hit 3 houses in Phase 2 before the sky started lightening. Then I walked back to my truck, drove home, and climbed into bed next to Christine. She stirred, rolled over. "Where were you?" "Couldn't sleep. Went for a drive." "Oh." She closed her eyes, drifted back to sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the houses, about the inspections that would fail, about the buyers who would complain, about Andrew Hartwell scrambling to fix problems he didn't understand. Monday morning, Christine left for work at 7:30. I waited until her car was gone, then called Gary. "Hey, I need another day. Family stuff." "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just need to take care of some things." "No problem. Take your time." I hung up, got in my truck, and drove back to Crescent Ridge. This time, I didn't sabotage anything. I just watched. I parked near the sales trailer, far enough back to stay invisible, and waited. At 9 a.m., Andrew's Audi pulled into the lot. He got out, phone to his ear, already talking to someone as he walked into the trailer. I watched him through the window, saw him pacing, gesturing, clearly stressed about something. 20 minutes later, a contractor's truck pulled up. 2 men got out, went inside. They stayed for 10 minutes, came out shaking their heads. Andrew followed them outside, hands on his hips, looking frustrated. I smiled. The problems had started. Over the next 3 days, I went back twice more. Each time, I found new ways to create small, invisible failures. A loose shingle, a cracked drainage pipe, a misaligned window frame. Nothing catastrophic, nothing dangerous, just enough to make people question whether Stonebridge knew what they were doing. On Thursday, I drove past the development and saw an inspector's truck parked outside one of the Phase 2 houses. I slowed down, watched him walk around the property with a clipboard, making notes. I kept driving. That night, Christine came home late. She looked stressed, distracted. "Long day?" I asked. "Yeah. Andrew's having issues with the development. Inspections are failing left and right," I nodded. "That sounds frustrating." "It is. He's freaking out. He thinks someone's sabotaging the site." "Is he calling the police?" "No, he doesn't have proof. And honestly, it just looks like sloppy work, but Andrew swears his crews are better than that." "Maybe they're not." She looked at me. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe his crews cut corners and he didn't notice. Happens all the time in construction." She frowned. "I guess." She went upstairs to change. I stayed in the kitchen, thinking about Andrew's stress, his confusion, his growing paranoia. This was just the beginning. Friday afternoon, I drove back to Crescent Ridge one last time. This time, I went straight to the sales trailer. I waited until Andrew left for lunch, then walked up to his Audi. I pulled a valve stem tool from my pocket, crouched beside the driver's side rear tire, and unscrewed the valve cap. Then I pressed the tool against the valve stem, releasing air slowly. Not a flat, just low enough to trigger the pressure sensor. I did the same to the passenger side rear tire, then walked back to my truck. An hour later, Andrew came back. He got in his car, started the engine. A few seconds later, I saw him frown, look down at the dashboard. The low tire pressure warning. He got out, checked the tires, scratched his head. I watched him pull out his phone, call someone, probably roadside assistance. I started my truck and drove away. That night, Christine was quiet at dinner. She barely touched her food, just pushed it around her plate. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just thinking." "About Andrew?" She looked up, surprised. "How did you know?" "You mentioned he was stressed. I figured it was still on your mind." She nodded. "He's talking about pulling back from the project. Says it's cursed or something. I've never seen him like this." "Like what?" "Scared." I took a bite of food, chewed slowly. "Maybe he should be scared." She stared at me. "What does that mean?" I smiled. "It means bad things happen to people who aren't careful." She set her fork down, hands shaking slightly. "David, did you—" "Finish your dinner, Christine." She didn't. She just sat there staring at me, and I could see it in her eyes. The realization that I wasn't who she thought I was, that I'd never been. The silence stretched between us. The food on her plate grew cold. I finished eating, took my plate to the sink, rinsed it, put it in the dishwasher. Normal routine, normal evening, except everything had changed. "I'm going upstairs," I said. She didn't respond. Just sat there, frozen, her hand still trembling slightly on the table. I left her in the kitchen and went up to the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and thought about what came next. Andrew Hartwell was starting to feel the pressure. The failed inspections, the property damage, the low tires, small things that added up, small things that made him question whether he was in control anymore. But that was just the beginning. I opened my laptop, pulled up the photos I'd taken at Crescent Ridge, the layout of the development, the location of the model homes, the schedule posted on the board. I studied them, memorizing every detail. Phase 2 was almost complete. 10 houses nearly finished, waiting for final inspections and buyers to close. Phase 3 was just beginning, cleared lots, foundation stakes, utility lines roughed in. I thought about access points, security gaps, vulnerabilities. I thought about fear. Andrew Hartwell had built his career on control, on being the person who had all the answers, who made things happen, who turned empty land into beautiful homes. He was confident, successful, respected, but confidence can be shaken. Success can be undermined. Respect can evaporate when people start asking questions. And I was going to make them ask questions. I closed the laptop, lay back on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. Downstairs, I could hear Christine moving around. The sound of dishes in the sink, water running, her footsteps crossing the kitchen floor. She came upstairs 30 minutes later, stood in the doorway looking at me. "Can we talk?" she asked. "About what?" "About us. About what happens now." I sat up, looked at her. What do you want to happen? I want you to forgive me. That's not going to happen. Her face crumpled, fresh tears. David, please, I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it. There's nothing to work through. Yes, there is. We've been together for 22 years. That has to count for something. It did, that past tense. She walked into the room, sat on the edge of the bed, not close to me, just sharing the same space. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But please don't throw away everything we built. You already did that. It was a moment of weakness. I was lonely. I felt invisible. Andrew made me feel seen. I looked at her. And what about the baby? She flinched. We can figure that out. No, we can't. David, I want you to understand something, Christine. This isn't about forgiveness. This isn't about second chances. This is about consequences. You made choices. Now you live with them. What are you going to do? I stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the street was dark except for the streetlights casting yellow pools on the pavement. Normal suburban night. Everyone inside their homes, their little worlds, pretending everything was fine. I'm going to make sure you understand what you've lost, I said. What does that mean? I turned to face her. It means you're going to watch everything fall apart, your career, your reputation, your relationship with Andrew, all of it, and you're going to know it's because of what you did. Her eyes went wide. You can't do that. I can, and I will. I'll tell people what you're doing. I'll tell Andrew. I'll tell them what? That I found out about your pregnancy? That I know about your relationship? That I'm upset? I smiled. They already know you're having another man's child, Christine. What they don't know is what I know about Andrew. She stood up. What do you know about Andrew? Enough. David, please, don't do this. Don't hurt him. He doesn't deserve it. And I did? She had no answer for that. I walked past her, headed for the door. Get some sleep, Christine. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Where are you going? Out. It's almost midnight. I know. I left her standing in the bedroom, went downstairs, grabbed my keys, and walked out to my truck. Started the engine, sat there for a moment, thinking. Then I drove to Crescent Ridge. The development was empty at this hour. Dark. Silent. The construction site looked different at night. More raw, more exposed. The half-built houses stood like skeletons against the sky. I parked at the far end, turned off the lights, and sat there, watching, planning. Andrew Hartwell thought he was safe, thought his problems were just bad luck, sloppy contractors, random misfortune. He had no idea someone was systematically dismantling everything he'd built. He had no idea I was just getting started. I sat there until 2 a.m., memorizing the layout, thinking about next steps. Then I drove home, climbed back into bed next to Christine, and closed my eyes. She was pretending to be asleep. I could tell by her breathing. Too controlled, too deliberate. But I didn't say anything. I just lay there, thinking about revenge. And the morning light crept through the window. I knew exactly what had to happen next. The next morning, Christine was already awake when I opened my eyes. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in her nightgown, staring at the wall like she could find answers there if she looked long enough. The early light coming through the curtains made her look pale, washed out, like a ghost of the person she used to be. Her hands were folded in her lap, fingers intertwined so tightly the knuckles had turned white. The room smelled like her perfume mixed with something else, fear, maybe, or desperation. You can smell it on people when they know they're cornered, when they realize there's no easy way out. It's metallic, sharp, like the air before a storm. Did you sleep? I asked. She shook her head. No. Neither had I. Really. I drifted in and out of consciousness, my mind constantly churning through scenarios, plans, consequences. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face when I told her I knew about the pregnancy. The shock, the fear, the realization that her carefully constructed world was collapsing around her and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I got up, went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth. The routine felt strange now, mechanical, like I was going through the motions of a life that didn't exist anymore. Like I was play-acting at being a husband when I was really just a stranger sharing space with another stranger. The toothpaste tasted bitter. Everything tasted bitter now. When I came back out, she was still sitting there. She'd been sitting there the whole time, frozen in place, waiting for me to tell her what happened next. Waiting for me to give her permission to speak, to move, to exist. David, we need to talk. I have to get to work. Please, just 5 minutes. Her voice cracked on the last word, breaking into something raw and desperate. I looked at her, really looked at her. The dark circles under her eyes, deep purple crescents that makeup couldn't hide anymore. The way her hands twisted together in her lap, anxious, desperate, like she was trying to wring water from stones. The way her shoulders hunched forward like she was trying to make herself smaller, less visible, less of a target. She looked broken. Completely, utterly broken. And part of me, the part that still remembered loving her, that still remembered thinking we'd grow old together, that still remembered the woman I'd married 11 years ago, wanted to comfort her, wanted to sit down next to her and tell her it would be okay, that we'd figure it out, that love conquers all the way they say in movies. But it wouldn't be okay. And I wasn't going to lie to her anymore. I'd spent 22 years believing her lies. She could spend the rest of her life living with my truth. 5 minutes, I said. She took a deep breath, like she was preparing for a dive into cold water, like she was gathering courage from somewhere deep inside. I need to explain something, about Andrew, about everything. I don't want to hear about Andrew. Please, just listen. She stood up, walked to the window on unsteady legs, looked out at the street below, cars driving by, neighbors leaving for work, walking dogs, getting newspapers from driveways. Normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that behind our door, behind our walls, a marriage was ending in slow motion. It started 6 months ago. We were working on the housing project together, the workforce housing initiative my nonprofit was partnering with his company on. He was charming, attentive, made me feel important. I know that sounds stupid. I know it doesn't excuse anything. It did sound stupid, charming, attentive, words that meant nothing, explained nothing, excused nothing. But I let her talk. Let her explain. It wouldn't change anything, but maybe she needed to say it. Maybe she needed to believe that words could somehow fix what she'd broken, that if she just explained it the right way, I'd understand. I wouldn't. I leaned against the dresser, arms crossed, waiting. My reflection in the mirror looked strange to me. Same face, same body, but somehow different. Harder, colder, like something fundamental had shifted beneath the surface. At first it was just meetings. Professional meetings about zoning approvals, construction timelines, budget allocations, but then we started having coffee after meetings, then lunch, then dinner at restaurants where nobody from work would see us, and somewhere along the way, it became more. She turned to face me, and I could see her eyes were red, wet with fresh tears that hadn't fallen yet. I didn't plan it, David. I swear to you, I didn't wake up one day and decide to have another relationship, to betray you, to throw away everything we built. It just happened. Things don't just happen, Christine. People make choices. You made a choice every single time you met him. Every time you lied to me about where you were. Every time you came home smelling like his cologne and pretended you'd been at a board meeting. Those were choices. She flinched like I'd struck her. I know. You're absolutely right. I made choices. Terrible choices, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Such a small word for such massive damage. Sorry doesn't unring bells. Sorry doesn't erase 6 months of lies. Sorry doesn't change the fact that she chose someone else over me, over us, over 22 years of building a life together brick by brick. How far along are you? She flinched again, harder this time. 12 weeks. 12 weeks. 3 months. I did the math in my head, matching it against the timeline I'd been building for weeks, the spreadsheet I'd created with dates and locations and lies. That meant conception was around early August, late July maybe. While I was installing new HVAC units at the Piedmont building, working 14-hour days in 100-degree attics because the contractor had screwed up the specifications and we had to fix it before the building opened. While I was working double shifts because Gary was on vacation and we were short-staffed and the tenants were complaining about the heat. While I was coming home exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open, my clothes soaked with sweat, and she was telling me she had late meetings, board dinners, strategic planning sessions that ran long, all lies. All calculated, deliberate, carefully constructed lies. Does Andrew know about the baby? Yes. What did he say? He said he'd support whatever decision I made. She said it like it was supposed to mean something, like it was supposed to prove Andrew was a good guy, a stand-up guy, someone who took responsibility. Of course he did. That's what men like Andrew say when they get someone pregnant. Supportive, understanding, progressive, letting the woman choose while secretly hoping she'll choose the option that's most convenient for him, that doesn't disrupt his real life, his real family. It's a coward's answer dressed up as respect for women's autonomy. Which is? She looked down at her hands, still twisting together. I don't know yet. I walked to the closet, pulled out my work clothes, started getting dressed with deliberate calm. Navy blue polo with the company logo embroidered on the chest, work pants, the ones with reinforced knees from crawling through utility access panels, steel-toed boots that I'd owned for 8 years, resoled twice, the uniform of invisibility, the clothes that told the world I was just a guy who fixed things when they broke. She watched me, waiting for more, waiting for me to yell, to cry, to beg her to stay, to forgive her. I didn't give it to her. David, please, tell me what you're thinking. Talk to me. I'm thinking you should call your office. Tell them you're taking the day off. Why? Because you need to figure out what you're going to do, and you're not going to figure it out while you're pretending everything's normal at work. She nodded, picked up her phone from the nightstand with shaking hands. Made the call. I heard her voice, professional, composed, lying smoothly about a family emergency. The same smooth voice she'd used to lie to me for months, maybe years. The voice of someone who'd gotten very good at deception. When she hung up, she looked at me with something like hope flickering in her eyes. What about you? Are you going to work? Yeah. Can't you stay home too? We could talk, really talk. Work through this together. Figure out what comes next. There's nothing to talk about. Yes, there is. There's everything to talk about. Our marriage, our future, what happens next, how we move forward from this, whether we can rebuild trust, whether counseling might help. Whether... Christine. I cut her off, my voice quiet but final. There is no moving forward. There is no rebuilding. There is no counseling that's going to fix this. Move forward. Like this was just a bump in the road, a rough patch, a challenge to overcome together, like we could just get past it if we tried hard enough, if we went to the right therapist, if we worked on our communication skills and learned to express our needs better. She still didn't understand. This wasn't something you moved forward from. This wasn't a crack that could be repaired. This was an ending. I finished buttoning my shirt, grabbed my keys from the dresser where I'd left them last night. You want to know what happens next? Yes. She stepped toward me, hands reaching out but not quite touching me, like she was afraid I'd push her away. Please, tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you want from me. Tell me how I can fix this. You can't fix it, but you're going to call Andrew. Tell him you need to see him today. Tell him it's urgent. Her face went pale again, the little bit of color that had returned draining away instantly, leaving her looking almost gray in the morning light. Why? What are you going to do? I'm not going to do anything. You and Andrew are going to have a conversation. About the baby. About what comes next for you two. About how you're going to handle this mess you've created. And what about us? There is no us anymore. The words hung in the air between us, solid and final. She started crying then, real tears now, streaming down her face, her whole body starting to shake. Please don't say that. Please, we can fix this. I'll do anything. I'll end it with Andrew. I'll quit my job if you want. I'll go to counseling. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Just please don't give up on us. I'm not giving up, Christine. You already gave up 6 months ago, or maybe longer. Maybe you gave up years ago and I was just too stupid to notice. I walked to the door, stopped, looked back at her one last time. She was standing in the middle of the bedroom. Our bedroom. The room where we'd slept together for 11 years. The room where we'd made plans, had conversations about buying a bigger house someday, talked about maybe having children if the timing was ever right. The room where we'd been intimate, where we'd shared secrets, where we'd built what I thought was a life together. Now it was just a space where two strangers happened to sleep. You'll both find out soon enough what's coming, I said. But I'll give you a hint. Andrew's life is about to get very complicated, and so is yours. I left her standing there in the bedroom and went downstairs. I could hear her crying, hear her footsteps as she followed me to the top of the stairs, hear her calling my name, but I didn't stop. I made coffee, scalding hot, black, bitter, drank it fast enough to burn my throat, grabbed my lunch bag from the fridge, and headed for the door. David, she called from upstairs, please don't leave like this. Please! I opened the door, stepped out into the cool morning air, and closed it behind me without looking back. The drive to work was quiet. Radio off. Just me and my thoughts and the sound of tires on pavement. I thought about everything I'd learned over the past weeks. The lies, the deception, the carefully constructed double life she'd been living. And I thought about what came next. Gary was already at the Meridian Center when I arrived, standing in the parking lot with his ever-present clipboard, reviewing the day's work orders. He looked up when I pulled in, frowned slightly when he saw my face. You okay? You look rough, David. Didn't sleep well. Everything all right at home? He asked it casually, but there was concern in his eyes. Gary had been married for 35 years. He knew what marital stress looked like. It's fine. Just had a lot on my mind. I grabbed my tool belt from the truck, slung it over my shoulder. The weight of it felt good, familiar, grounding. He nodded, didn't push. That's what I liked about Gary. He respected boundaries, didn't pry into things that weren't his business. Well, we've got a busy day. Building inspectors coming at noon for the annual safety inspection. Need you to double-check all the fire suppression systems before he gets here, make sure everything's up to code. I'm on it. I spent the morning going through the building floor by floor, checking sprinkler heads, testing alarm panels, making sure every emergency light was functioning, that every exit sign was properly illuminated. The work was meditative, familiar, comforting in its routine. Test the system, log the results, move to the next floor, repeat. It gave me time to think without the weight of Christine's presence, without her tears, without her desperate attempts to explain away 6 months of betrayal. About Christine sitting at home right now, probably calling Andrew, telling him they needed to talk. About Andrew getting that call, hearing the urgency in her voice, wondering what was wrong, what had changed. About the two of them meeting somewhere, probably the model home at Crescent Ridge, their usual spot, having a conversation about their future while I was here checking fire codes and emergency lighting. At 11:30, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from Christine. I talked to Andrew. He wants to meet with both of us. He thinks if we all sit down together, we can work this out like adults. Can we do that? Please? I stared at the message for a long time, my finger hovering over the keyboard. Then I typed back, no. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared, appeared again. She was typing, deleting, typing again, trying to find the right words to convince me. Please, David. He wants to apologize. He wants to take full responsibility. He wants to make this right. There is nothing to make right. Tell him I'll see him soon enough? What does that mean? David, you're scaring me. What are you going to do? I didn't respond. Just put the phone back in my pocket and went back to work. And the building inspector showed up at noon. Older guy named Peterson, late 50s, probably close to retirement. Been doing this job for 30 years, seen everything. We walked the building together, him checking boxes on his inspection form, me pointing out the upgrades we'd made since last year's inspection. New fire panel on the 3rd floor, upgraded sprinkler heads in the parking garage, emergency generator tested and certified. He was thorough but fair, asked good questions, seemed genuinely impressed with the condition of the building. By 2 p.m., we were done. Looks good, David. You run a tight ship here. He signed off on the inspection form, handed me a copy. Thanks, Mr. Peterson. Just trying to keep everything safe and up to code. Well, you're doing a fine job. Tell Gary he's lucky to have you. I will. He left, and I stood in the lobby, watching him walk to his car through the glass doors, watching him drive away, thinking about inspections, about things that look good on the surface but are rotting underneath, about how easy it is to hide problems if you know where inspectors look and where they don't. At 3 p.m., I clocked out early, told Gary I had a personal appointment. He nodded and didn't ask questions and drove to Crescent Ridge. The site was busy, as usual. Contractors everywhere, the sound of hammers and power saws, trucks backing up with loads of lumber and drywall and roofing materials, the organized chaos of construction. I parked near the sales trailer, far enough back to not be obvious, and waited. 20 minutes later, Christine's car pulled in. Then Andrew's Audi with its vanity plate, Build It. They parked next to each other, got out, stood there talking in the parking lot. I couldn't hear what they were saying from this distance, but I could see their body language clear as day. Her arms crossed, defensive, protective, him gesturing with his hands, explaining something, trying to convince her of something. Then they both looked toward the parking lot, scanning the cars. Looking for me, probably. Wondering if I'd shown up after all. Wondering if I was watching them right now. I didn't move, just watched from behind my truck's tinted windows. After a few minutes of conversation, after checking the parking lot one more time, they went into the sales trailer together. The door closed behind them. Through the trailer's windows, I could see them sitting down at the desk. Could see Andrew running his hands through his hair. Could see Christine with her face in her hands. I sat there for another hour, engine off, watching. Other people came and went. Potential buyers touring model homes with real estate agents, contractors checking in at the site office, a couple with a toddler walking around one of the nearly finished houses, pointing at features, talking about where furniture would go. Everyone going about their business, their lives, completely unaware that inside that trailer, 2 people were having a conversation about a pregnancy, a marriage ending, a life falling apart. When they finally came out, Christine looked like she'd been crying, makeup smudged, eyes red, shoulders slumped. Andrew looked stressed, tired, running his hand through his hair the way people do when they're trying to figure out an impossible problem, when they realize there's no easy solution. They stood by their cars, talking for another 10 minutes. I watched Andrew reach out, touch her arm, saw Christine pull back, shake her head, saw him step closer, try again, saw her turn away, get in her car. Andrew watched her drive away, his hand still extended like he could somehow call her back. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call, pacing back and forth in the parking lot, talking to someone. His wife, maybe. Or a lawyer. Or someone else he thought could help him navigate this mess. I started my truck and left before he could see me. That night, Christine came home at 7 p.m. She looked exhausted, hollowed out like someone had scraped away everything inside and left just the shell. She dropped her bag by the door with a heavy thud, kicked off her shoes without bothering to put them on the rack, and came into the kitchen where I was making dinner. Pasta with marinara sauce. Simple. The kind of meal you make when you are on autopilot, when you need something to do with your hands. "Can we talk now?" she asked, her voice small. "If you want." She sat at the table, watching me cook. I kept my back to her, focusing on the pot, the sauce, the mechanical process of preparing food. "Andrew told me something today," she said after a long silence. I didn't respond, just stirred the pasta. "He said someone's been sabotaging the development. Small things at first, electrical problems, moisture damage in crawl spaces, but it's getting worse. Vandalism now, broken windows, graffiti on the model homes. He thinks it's a competitor trying to ruin his reputation, drive him out of business." I drained the pasta, mixed in the sauce, served 2 plates, set one in front of her, one in front of my chair, sat down. "That sounds stressful," I said, taking a bite. "He's hiring private security, putting up cameras all over the development. He's worried about his company, his reputation. He's worried about everything." "Good." She looked up at me sharply. "Good?" "He should be worried. Actions have consequences." "David," she studied my face, searching for something. "You wouldn't do something like that, would you?" "Wouldn't do what?" "Sabotage his business, vandalize his property." I took another bite of pasta, chewed slowly, swallowed. "What do you think?" "I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know who you are. I'm the same person I've always been. You just never paid attention." She set her fork down, her food barely touched. Tears welling up again, always the tears now. "I'm begging you, David. Please don't do this. Don't hurt him. Don't hurt me. We can find a way through this that doesn't destroy everything. We can be adults about this. We can—" "Everything's already destroyed, Christine. You just don't see it yet." No, it's not. We can still fix this. I can end things with Andrew completely. We can work on our marriage. We can go to counseling. We can rebuild trust. I don't want to work on our marriage." The words hung in the air between us, final and absolute. The period at the end of a very long sentence. She started sobbing then. Real sobs this time, her whole body shaking, her breath coming in gasps. Please don't give up on us. I love you. I still love you. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I do love you. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that to you." "No, you don't." "I do. David, I swear I do. I made a mistake, a terrible, unforgivable mistake, but I do love you. You're my husband. You're my partner. I was convenient. I was stable. I was safe. But you didn't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spent 6 months building a life with someone else." She stood up from the table, nearly knocking over her chair, and came around to my side. Dropped to her knees in front of me, grabbing my hands, forcing me to look at her tear-stained face. "I'm pregnant with another man's child," she said, the words coming out desperate, pleading. "I know that. I know exactly what I did. But we can figure this out. We can raise the baby together. Lots of couples do it. We can make it work. We can—" "No." "Why not? David, please. Why not?" I looked down at her, at this woman I'd spent 22 years with, who I'd built a life with, who I'd thought I'd grow old with, at this stranger kneeling on my kitchen floor, begging for something I couldn't give her anymore. Because every time I looked at that child, I would see Andrew. I would see your betrayal. I would see everything you destroyed. I would see every lie you told, every Wednesday afternoon you spent in that model home, every time you came home and kissed me on the cheek and asked about my day while you smelled like his cologne. And I can't live like that. She collapsed against my legs, sobbing into my knees, her hands clutching at my pants. Please don't do this. Please give me another chance. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you, I promise. I'll be the wife you deserve. I'll be faithful. I'll be honest. I'll be everything you need me to be. Just please, don't leave me." I stood up, forcing her to let go, and stepped over her. Took my plate to the sink, rinsed it, put it in the dishwasher. The same routine I'd done 1,000 times before. Normal, mechanical, safe. She stayed on the floor, crying. I walked past her, up the stairs, into the bedroom. Lay on the bed, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling. The same ceiling I'd stared at for years. The same ceiling fan rotating slowly overhead. The same shadows playing across the plaster. Everything the same. Everything different. I heard her crying downstairs. The sound went on for a long time. An hour, maybe more. Eventually it stopped. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, slow and heavy. Heard the bathroom door close. Heard the shower running for a long time, water beating against tile, steam seeping out under the door. When she finally came to bed, she didn't say anything. Just climbed in on her side, curled up facing away from me. The space between us felt like miles. "I talked to a lawyer today," she whispered into the darkness. "Good. He said I should move out, that it would be better for both of us if we separated now, created some distance while we figure things out." "He's probably right. Is that what you want?" "It doesn't matter what I want anymore." She was quiet for a long time. The only sound was our breathing, out of sync, and the ceiling fan's steady rotation. Then, so softly I almost didn't hear it, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I would give anything to take it back. Anything." I didn't respond. Just lay there in the dark, listening to her breathing eventually slow and deepen as she fell into exhausted sleep. And I thought about Andrew Hartwell, about his Audi with the Build It vanity plate, about his confident smile in all those photos on the company website, about his wedding ring and his wife Diane and his 2 teenage children who were about to find out their father wasn't who they thought he was, about how all of that was going to disappear, not because of anything violent, not because of anything illegal, just because the truth was finally coming out. Just because lies, no matter how carefully constructed, eventually collapse under their own weight. I closed my eyes and let sleep take me, knowing that tomorrow would bring new consequences, new revelations, new endings, and knowing that I was ready for all of it. The next morning, Christine was already awake when I opened my eyes. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, still in her nightgown, staring at the wall. The early light coming through the curtains made her look pale, washed out, like a ghost of the person she used to be. "Did you sleep?" I asked. She shook her head. "No." I got up, went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth. The routine felt strange now, mechanical, like I was going through the motions of a life that didn't exist anymore. When I came back out, she was still sitting there. "David, we need to talk. I have to get to work. Please, just 5 minutes." I looked at her, really looked at her, the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands twisted together in her lap, the way her shoulders hunched forward like she was trying to make herself smaller. "5 minutes," I said. She took a deep breath. "I need to explain something, about Andrew, about everything." "I don't want to hear about Andrew. Please, just listen." She stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the street. It started 6 months ago. We were working on the housing project together. He was charming, attentive, made me feel important. I know that sounds stupid. I know it doesn't excuse anything. I leaned against the dresser, arms crossed, waiting. At first it was just meetings, professional. But then we started having coffee after meetings. Then lunch, then dinner. And somewhere along the way, it became more. She turned to face me. "I didn't plan it, David. I didn't wake up one day and decide to have another relationship. It just happened." "Things don't just happen, Christine. People make choices." "I know. You're right. I made a choice, a terrible choice, and I'm sorry." "How far along are you?" She flinched. 12 weeks. 12 weeks. 3 months. I did the math in my head. That meant it happened around August, while I was installing new HVAC units at the Piedmont building, while I was working double shifts because Gary was on vacation, while I was coming home exhausted and she was telling me she had late meetings. "Does Andrew know?" "Yes." "What did he say?" "He said he'd support whatever decision I made." "Which is?" She looked down at her hands. "I don't know yet." I walked to the closet, pulled out my work clothes, started getting dressed. She watched me, waiting for more. I didn't give it to her. "David, please, tell me what you're thinking." "I'm thinking you should call your office. Tell them you're taking the day off." "Why?" "Because you need to figure out what you're going to do, and you're not going to figure it out at work." She nodded, picked up her phone, made the call. I heard her voice, professional, composed, lying smoothly about a family emergency. When she hung up, she looked at me. What about you? Are you going to work? Yeah. Can't you stay home too? We could talk. Really talk. There's nothing to talk about. Yes, there is. There's everything to talk about. Our marriage. Our future. What happens next? I finished buttoning my shirt, grabbed my keys. You want to know what happens next? Yes. You're going to call Andrew. Tell him you need to see him today. Tell him it's urgent. Why? Because he needs to understand what's coming. Her face went pale again. What's coming, David? I walked to the door, stopped, looked back at her. You'll both find out soon enough. I left her standing there in the bedroom and went downstairs. Made coffee, drank it fast, too hot, burning my throat. Then I got in my truck and drove to work. Gary was already at the Meridian Center when I arrived. He looked up from his clipboard, frowned slightly. You okay? You look rough. Didn't sleep well. Everything all right at home? Fine, just had a lot on my mind. He nodded, didn't push. That's what I liked about Gary. He respected boundaries. Well, we've got a busy day. Building inspector's coming at noon for the annual. Need you to double-check all the fire suppression systems before he gets here. I'm on it. I spent the morning going through the building, checking sprinklers, testing alarms, making sure everything was perfect. The work was meditative, familiar. It gave me time to think. About Christine sitting at home, probably calling Andrew right now. About Andrew getting that call, hearing the urgency in her voice, wondering what was wrong. About the two of them meeting somewhere, probably the model home at Crescent Ridge, having a conversation about their future while I was here checking fire codes. At 11:30, my phone buzzed. Text from Christine. I talked to Andrew. He wants to meet with both of us. Can we do that? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back. No. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Please, David. He wants to apologize. He wants to make this right. There's nothing to make right. He thinks there is. He says he takes full responsibility. I almost laughed. Full responsibility. Like this was a business deal gone wrong. Like he could just apologize and write a check and everything would be fixed. Tell him I'll see him soon enough. What does that mean? I didn't respond. Just put the phone away and went back to work. The building inspector showed up at noon. Older guy, late 50s, seen everything. We walked the building together. Him checking boxes on his form, me pointing out the upgrades we'd made since last year. He was thorough but fair. By 2 p.m., we were done. Looks good, David. You run a tight ship. Thanks. Tell Gary he's lucky to have you. I will. He left, and I stood in the lobby, watching him walk to his car, watching him drive away, thinking about inspections, about things that look good on the surface but are rotting underneath, about how easy it is to hide problems if you know where inspectors look and where they don't. At 3 p.m., I drove to Crescent Ridge. The site was busy, as usual. Contractors everywhere, the sound of hammers and saws, trucks backing up with loads of materials. I parked near the sales trailer and waited. 20 minutes later, Christine's car pulled in. Then Andrew's Audi. They parked next to each other, got out, stood there talking. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see their body language. Her arms crossed, defensive. Him gesturing, explaining, trying to convince her of something. Then they both looked toward the parking lot. Looking for me, probably, wondering if I'd show up. I didn't move, just watched. After a few minutes, they went into the trailer together. The door closed behind them. I sat there for another hour. Other people came and went. Potential buyers touring model homes, real estate agents with their clipboards and fake smiles, everyone going about their business, completely unaware that 2 people inside that trailer were having a conversation about a pregnancy, a marriage, a life falling apart. When they finally came out, Christine looked like she'd been crying. Andrew looked stressed, running his hand through his hair the way people do when they're trying to figure out an impossible problem. They stood by their cars, talking for another 10 minutes. Then Christine got in her car and drove away. Andrew watched her go, then pulled out his phone and made a call. I started my truck and left. That night, Christine came home at 7 p.m. She looked exhausted, hollowed out. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes, and came into the kitchen where I was making dinner. Can we talk now? She asked. If you want. She sat at the table. I kept cooking, pasta, nothing fancy. When it was ready, I served 2 plates, set one in front of her, sat down across from her. Andrew told me something today, she said. What? He said someone's been sabotaging the development. Small things, electrical problems, moisture damage, vandalism. He thinks it's a competitor trying to ruin his reputation. I took a bite of pasta. That sounds stressful. He's hiring private security, putting up cameras. Good idea. She studied my face. David, you wouldn't what? You wouldn't do something like that, would you? I smiled. What do you think? I don't know what to think anymore. I don't know who you are. I'm the same person I've always been. You just never paid attention. She set her fork down, tears welling up again. I'm begging you, David, please don't do this. Don't hurt him. Don't hurt me. We can find a way through this that doesn't destroy everything. Everything's already lost, Christine. You just don't see it yet. No, it's not. We can still fix this. I can end things with Andrew. We can work on our marriage. I don't want to work on our marriage. The words hung in the air between us. Final. Absolute. She started sobbing. Real sobs this time, her whole body shaking. Please don't give up on us. I love you. I still love you. No, you don't. I do. I made a mistake. A terrible, unforgivable mistake. But I do love you, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove that. I stood up, took my plate to the sink. It's too late for that. It's not. Please, David. Please. She was begging now. Actually begging. On her feet, following me to the sink, grabbing my arm, forcing me to look at her. I'm pregnant with another man's child, she said. I know that. I know what I did. But we can figure this out. We can raise the baby together. We can... No. Why not? I turned to face her, looked her straight in the eyes. Because every time I looked at that child, I would see Andrew. I would see your betrayal. I would see everything you destroyed, and I can't live like that. She collapsed against the counter, sliding down to the floor, sobbing into her hands. I stood there watching her for a moment. Then I stepped over her and went upstairs. I lay in bed, listening to her cry downstairs. The sound went on for a long time, an hour, maybe more. Eventually it stopped. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the bathroom door close, heard the shower running. When she came to bed, she didn't say anything, just climbed in on her side, curled up facing away from me. I talked to a lawyer today, she whispered. Good. He said I should move out, that it would be better for both of us if we separated now. He's probably right. Is that what you want? It doesn't matter what I want anymore. She was quiet for a long time. Then, so softly I almost didn't hear it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't respond. Just lay there in the dark, listening to her breathing, waiting for sleep that wouldn't come, and I thought about Andrew Hartwell, about his Audi with the vanity plate, about his confident smile, about his wedding ring and his wife Diane and his 2 teenage children, about how all of that was going to disappear. Saturday morning, I woke up early. Christine was still asleep, or pretending to be. I got dressed quietly, left a note on the kitchen counter, out running errands, and drove to Crescent Ridge. It was 6:30 a.m. The site was empty, except for a security guard's car parked near the sales trailer. Andrew had moved fast on that security. I parked 2 blocks away, walked through the woods that bordered the development, came in from the back where there were no cameras yet. Phase 3 was just foundation work. Cleared lots, stakes in the ground, trenches for utility lines. I walked through it carefully, checking for cameras, motion sensors, anything new, found nothing. The security was focused on Phase 2, where the finished and near-finished houses were. I made my way to one of the Phase 2 houses, the one on the back corner, the electrical panel I'd tampered with 2 weeks ago. I opened it, examined the connections. Still loose, still causing intermittent problems. But nothing dangerous, nothing that would actually hurt anyone. I closed the panel, moved on. Behind me, I heard a car engine. I froze. The sound was close, getting closer. Headlights swept across the empty lot behind me. I dropped low, moved behind a pile of lumber, watched. A pickup truck. Not the security guard. Someone else. The truck stopped near the house I'd just left, and a man got out. Even in the early morning dim light, I recognized him, Andrew Hartwell. He walked to the electrical panel, opened it, examined it with a flashlight, checking the work, looking for evidence, trying to figure out who was sabotaging his development. I stayed completely still, barely breathing. He stood there for maybe 5 minutes, shining the light into every corner, taking photos with his phone. Then he closed the panel and walked the perimeter of the house, checking windows, doors, looking for signs of forced entry. He was maybe 30 feet from where I was hiding. I could see his face now in the growing dawn light. He looked tired, stressed, angry. This wasn't the confident developer from the photos on his company website. This was a man who was starting to lose control. Good. He got back in his truck, sat there for a moment, made a phone call. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I saw his face, animated, frustrated, gesturing even though whoever he was talking to couldn't see him. Then he hung up, started the engine, and drove toward the front of the development. I waited until he was gone. Then I worked my way back through the woods to my truck. But as I was walking, I heard the pickup truck again, coming back. Fast, I ran. Not toward my truck. That would lead him right to me. Toward the main road, where there were other houses, other cars, where I could blend in. I heard the truck behind me, heard it skid to a stop, heard a door slam. "Hey!" Andrew's voice. Loud, angry. I didn't stop. Kept running, cutting through yards, jumping fences. Behind me, I heard him running too, cursing, breathing hard. I made it to a residential street, slowed to a walk, tried to look casual, but I could still hear him, closer now, his footsteps pounding on the pavement. "Hey, stop!" I turned around. He was 20 feet away, hands on his knees, catching his breath. When he looked up, his eyes were wild. "Who are you?" he demanded. "Why are you on my property?" I didn't answer, just stared at him. He straightened up, started walking toward me. "I asked you a question. What were you doing at my development?" "Just out for a walk." "At 6 in the morning, in the middle of a construction site?" "Didn't see any no trespassing signs." "There are signs everywhere." He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the authorities." "Go ahead." He paused, studying my face. "Do I know you?" "I don't think so." "You look familiar." I shrugged. "I have that kind of face." He kept staring at me, trying to place me. Then his eyes widened slightly. "You're Christine's husband." Was? "Was." "We're separating. I'm sure she told you." His face went pale. All the anger drained out of him, replaced by something else. Fear, maybe, or guilt. Hard to tell. "Listen," he said, lowering his phone. "I don't want any trouble." "Neither do I." "Then what were you doing at the development?" "Like I said, just walking." "In the middle of my construction site. At dawn." I stepped closer. Not threatening, just closing the distance. He stepped back. "I wanted to see where she spent her Wednesdays." He swallowed hard. "Look, I know you're upset. You have every right to be. What happened between Christine and me, it was wrong. I take full responsibility." "Full responsibility," I repeated. "That's what she said you told her." "I mean it. I'm not trying to duck this. I made a mistake, a huge mistake, and I'm sorry." "Are you sorry you had a relationship with my wife, or are you sorry you got caught?" He didn't answer. "That's what I thought." I started to walk past him, but he grabbed my arm. "Wait, we need to talk about this. Like adults." I looked down at his hand on my arm. He let go immediately. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Yes, there is. Christine is pregnant. That changes everything." "It doesn't change anything for me." "But it should. That's my child. Our child. And we need to figure out how to handle this situation in a way that's best for everyone." I smiled. "You think you're going to raise a child with my wife?" "I think we need to have a conversation about it." "No. What you need to understand is that your life as you know it is over. Your career, your marriage, your reputation, all of it. Gone." His face hardened. "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." "You can't touch me. I haven't done anything illegal." "You haven't done anything illegal," I agreed. "But you have done things that would be very interesting to certain people. Your wife, for example. Your business partners. The board of directors at the nonprofits where you sit. The clients who trusted you with their dream homes." He stepped back, his confident facade cracking. "You're insane." "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just someone who's been underestimated his entire life. Someone who's tired of being invisible. Someone who's very, very good at finding weak points." "What do you want?" "I want you to be afraid. I want you to lie awake at night wondering what's coming next. I want you to feel what I felt when I heard my wife laughing on the phone with another man." "This is crazy. You're crazy." "Maybe. But I'm the one in control now. Remember that." I walked away, leaving him standing there on the sidewalk. When I looked back, he was on his phone, probably calling someone. Christine, maybe. Or the authorities. Didn't matter. I made it back to my truck, drove home. Christine was in the kitchen when I got there, still in her bathrobe, coffee cup in hand. "Where were you?" she asked. "I told you. Running errands." "For 3 hours?" "Time got away from me." She set down her coffee cup. "Andrew called me. He said you were at the development. He said you threatened him." "I didn't threaten him. I just told him the truth. David, you can't do this. You can't harass him. You can't—" I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. He's talking about getting a restraining order. Let him try. She walked toward me, her face desperate. Please, stop this, before it goes too far. It's already gone too far. It went too far when you decided to have another relationship, when you decided I didn't matter, when you decided our marriage was something you could just throw away for someone who made you feel special. I know I hurt you, but this isn't the way to fix it. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm just making sure everyone understands what happened, what you both did. By destroying his life, by showing him he's not untouchable. She grabbed my arm, forcing me to look at her. If you do this, if you keep going down this path, you'll lose everything. Your job, your reputation, possibly your freedom. Is that really worth it? I pulled my arm away. You tell me. Was it worth it? Was Andrew worth throwing away 22 years? Was an hour in a model home every Wednesday worth destroying our marriage? She had no answer. I went upstairs, got in the shower, let the hot water run over me. When I came out, she was gone. Left a note saying she was staying with her sister for a few days. Good. I needed space, needed time to plan the next move, because Andrew Hartwell thought he could just apologize and move on, thought he could intimidate me with lawyers and restraining orders, thought he was still in control. He had no idea how wrong he was. Monday morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. Gary greeted me with his usual clipboard and coffee, asking if I could check the boiler system at the Riverside Plaza building. Normal day, normal routine. But my mind was somewhere else. On Andrew, on Christine, on the plan that was taking shape. At 10:08 a.m., I got a text from an unknown number. This is Andrew Hartwell. We need to talk. Today. Please? I stared at the message. The please was interesting. Not demanding anymore. Asking. Begging, almost. I typed back, where? Coffee shop on Trade Street. Noon. I'll be there. I finished my work at Riverside Plaza, told Gary I had a dentist appointment, and drove downtown. The coffee shop was busy. Lunch rush, office workers grabbing sandwiches, students with laptops. I found Andrew sitting in the back corner, 2 cups of coffee on the table in front of him. He looked worse than he had on Saturday. Dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled. The confident developer was gone, replaced by someone who looked like he hadn't slept in days. Thanks for coming, he said as I sat down. What do you want? He pushed one of the coffees toward me. I didn't touch it. I want to apologize, he said. Really apologize? Not the corporate sorry we messed up apology. A real one. Okay. He took a breath. What I did, what Christine and I did, was inexcusable. I knew she was married. I knew it was wrong. But I did it anyway, and I'm sorry for that. I waited. I'm also sorry for how I handled it. For being arrogant. For thinking I could just smooth this over like it was a business problem. That was wrong too. Are you done? No. He leaned forward. I need to tell you something. Something Christine doesn't know. That got my attention. What? He ran his hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable. The baby. It's not mine. I stared at him. What are you talking about? I had a vasectomy 7 years ago. After my second kid was born. I can't have children? The world tilted. Everything I thought I knew, everything I'd built my plan on, shifted. You're lying. I'm not. I have medical records. I can show you. Then whose child is it? I don't know, but it's not mine. I sat back, processing this. Christine was 12 weeks pregnant. If it wasn't Andrew's, then whose was it? Who else had she been seeing? Does Christine know you had a vasectomy? No, we never discussed it. I just assumed she knew it wasn't possible. But she told you it was yours. Yes, and I believed her at first. I thought maybe the vasectomy had reversed itself. It's rare, but it happens. But then I went to my doctor last week. Got tested. I'm still sterile. There's no way that baby is mine. I stood up. I need to go. Wait, please. I'm telling you this because I think you deserve to know the truth. All of it. Christine has been lying to both of us. Why should I believe you? Because I have nothing to gain from lying. If anything, it would be easier for me to just go along with it. Pretend the baby is mine. Keep Christine in my life. He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo of a medical document. But that wouldn't be fair to you, or to me, or to whoever the real father is. I looked at the document. It looked legitimate, but it could be fake. I'll need to verify this. I'll give you my doctor's name and number. You can call and verify. I'll sign a release. I took his phone, photographed the document. Why are you telling me this now? Because I'm tired of the lies, tired of the games, and because I think you need to know who you're really dealing with. I left without another word, drove to the Meridian Center, went up to the roof where I could think without interruption, looked out over the city, trying to make sense of what Andrew had just told me. If the baby wasn't Andrew's, then who? I pulled out my phone, opened the location app, scrolled back through Christine's history, looking for patterns I'd missed, looking for other stops, other deviations from her schedule, and I found them. Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Not every week, but often enough. A location I hadn't paid attention to before because I was so focused on Wednesdays and Crescent Ridge. I looked up the address. A condo building downtown, expensive, the kind of place successful professionals live. I cross-referenced it with Christine's emails, found a name that kept appearing, Jason Brenner, her coworker, the CFO at her nonprofit. I looked him up, 46 years old, divorced, no kids. LinkedIn photo showed a good-looking guy in a suit, confident smile, the kind of man women describe as distinguished. I went back through her emails. They were subtle, but now that I was looking for them, I could see the patterns. Can we meet about the budget? Need your input on the grant proposal. Coffee to discuss Q3 projections? All code, all covering something else. My phone rang. Christine. Where are you? She asked. Work. Can you come home? We need to talk. About what? About everything. About what happens next. I'll be there in an hour. I hung up, stood there on the roof, thinking about the last 2 weeks, about how I'd built my entire plan around Andrew, about how I'd been so focused on him that I'd missed the real picture. Christine wasn't just having a relationship with Andrew. She was having a relationship with Jason, too. Maybe others. Maybe she'd been doing this for years, and I'd been too blind, too trusting, too busy fixing air conditioners to notice. The husband was never the target. She was. I'd been planning my revenge on the wrong person. When I got home, Christine was waiting in the living room. She looked nervous, her hands twisting together. I talked to Andrew, she said. So did I? Her eyes widened. He called you? We met. He told me something interesting. What? He told me the baby isn't his? She went white, completely white, like all the pigment drained from her skin in an instant. That's not... He's lying. Is he? Yes, of course he is. Why would he say that? Because he had a vasectomy 7 years ago. Because he's sterile. Because you lied to him. She sat down hard on the couch. David, I can explain? Is it Jason's? She froze. Complete stillness, like a deer caught in headlights. How do you... I know everything, Christine. I've known for weeks. I just didn't know about Jason until today. And tears started streaming down her face. Please, let me explain. Go ahead. Jason and I, it was before Andrew. It started last year, but it was over by the time Andrew and I started seeing each other. Was it? Yes, I swear. It ended in July. Andrew started in August. Your location history says you were at Jason's condo 3 weeks ago. She had no answer. I sat down across from her. So let me get this straight. You were seeing Jason, then you were seeing Andrew, and you let both of them think they might be the father. Did you plan this? Was this some kind of game? No. God, no. It got complicated. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But it did happen, and now here we are. David, please, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but we can still... Still what? Fix this? Move past it? Pretend none of it happened? Yes, if you want to. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all, her sitting there, pregnant with another man's child, maybe 2 other men, who knows, asking if we could fix our marriage. You're unbelievable, I said. I know you're angry. I'm not angry anymore, Christine. I'm past anger. I'm just amazed at how well you played this, how you managed to juggle multiple men, multiple lies, multiple lives, how you kept it all straight in your head. I didn't want any of this. Yes, you did. You wanted to feel desired, wanted, important, and you were willing to destroy everything to get it. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. I stood up. I want you out of this house by Friday. What? You heard me. Pack your things. Find somewhere else to live. I don't care where. Jason's place, Andrew's place, your sister's place. Just not here. You can't just kick me out. This is my house too. Then we'll sell it, split everything, get lawyers, do this the legal way. But either way, you're not living here anymore. David. I'm done, Christine. I'm done with the lies, the manipulation, the games. I'm done with you. I walked past her, up the stairs, into the bedroom. started pulling her clothes out of the closet, throwing them on the bed. She followed me, still crying, still trying to explain. Please don't do this. Please. I'll do anything. I'll end things with both of them. I'll quit my job. I'll... Save it. I carried an armful of clothes downstairs, dropped them by the front door, went back for more. She watched me, helpless, as I systematically moved her entire wardrobe out of our bedroom. Where am I supposed to go? She asked. Not my problem. But the baby is not my concern. Call Jason, call Andrew, call whoever the father is. Figure it out. By the time I was done, there was a pile of clothes, shoes, and personal items by the front door. She stood there staring at it, crying, broken. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. She picked up some of the clothes, carried them to her car, made 3 trips. When everything was loaded, she stood in the doorway, looking at me one last time. I still love you, she said. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the safety, the stability, the guy who fixes things when they break, but you don't love me. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Because she knew I was right. She left. I watched her car back out of the driveway, turn onto the street, disappear. Then I closed the door, locked it, and sat down in the empty house. The twist wasn't that Christine had been cheating. It was that I'd been so focused on Andrew, so certain he was the villain, that I'd missed the bigger picture. She'd been playing everyone. Andrew, Jason, me, maybe others I didn't even know about. And now it was time to make sure everyone knew exactly who Christine really was. The next morning, Tuesday, I woke up in an empty house. No Christine, no sound of her getting ready for work, no coffee brewing, just silence. It felt good. I made my own coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. I'd spent most of the night thinking about what came next, about the information I had, the evidence I'd gathered, the people who needed to know the truth. First step, Jason Brenner. I pulled up his LinkedIn profile, sent him a message. Jason, this is David Fletcher, Christine's husband. We need to talk about the baby she's carrying. I have information you'll want to see. Can we meet today? It's urgent. Then I drafted an email to Diane Hartwell, Andrew's wife. Didn't send it yet, just wrote it, polished it, made sure every word was right. Mrs. Hartwell, my name is David Fletcher. I'm writing to inform you that your husband Andrew has been having a relationship with my wife Christine for the past 6 months. I have documentation, timestamps, and photographic evidence. I'm not asking for anything from you. I just thought you deserved to know the truth. Attached the photos I'd taken of them at Crescent Ridge, the timestamps from Christine's location history, screenshots of the emails. Then I drafted one more email, this one to the board of directors at Christine's nonprofit, anonymous, sent from a burner email account I'd created. Dear board members, I'm writing to bring to your attention concerning behavior by your executive director, Christine Fletcher. She has been conducting inappropriate relationships with at least 2 individuals during work hours, including CFO Jason Brenner, potentially creating conflicts of interest and liability for the organization. I'm attaching evidence for your review. I trust you will investigate this matter appropriately. Same attachments, same evidence, but framed as an organizational concern, not a personal one. I read all 3 messages one more time, made sure they were accurate, factual, unemotional. Then I hit send on the message to Jason, waited. At 9:47 a.m., he responded, I don't know what you're talking about. You must be mistaken. I wrote back, I'm not mistaken. I have location data showing Christine at your condo dozens of times over the past year. I have text messages. I have evidence. We can discuss this like adults, or I can forward everything to your employer. Your choice. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. What do you want? Just to talk, in person, today. Where? Your office, noon. No, somewhere neutral. Fine, park across from your building. I'll meet you there at noon. He agreed. At 11:45, I drove downtown, found the park, sat on a bench with a clear view of the nonprofit's building across the street. At exactly noon, Jason walked out. He was tall, well-dressed, the kind of guy who looked like he spent mornings at the gym and afternoons in boardrooms. He sat down on the bench next to me, didn't look at me. What do you want? He asked. I want you to understand what Christine is. And what's that? A liar, a manipulator, someone who plays people against each other to get what she wants. That's not true, isn't it? She told you the baby was yours, didn't she? He didn't answer, but I saw his jaw clench. She told Andrew the same thing, told me it was his, kept all of us guessing, all of us invested, all of us thinking we had some claim to her future. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know who you're dealing with, and because I want you to understand something. She's going to destroy your career if you let her. My career is fine. Is it? How's the board going to react when they find out their CFO has been having a relationship with the executive director, when they see the timestamps showing you two meeting during work hours, when they realize there might be financial improprieties? His face went pale. There are no financial improprieties. Are you sure? Because if I were investigating this, I'd want to look pretty closely at every decision you and Christine made together, every budget approval, every grant allocation, every vendor contract, just to make sure everything was above board. This is blackmail. No, this is me giving you a heads up, because whether you believe it or not, you're about to be collateral damage in Christine's mess, and I thought you might want to get ahead of it. What do you want from me? Nothing. I just want you to know the truth. I stood up. The baby isn't yours, by the way. It's not Andrew's either. So I'd suggest you get a paternity test before you make any commitments. I walked away, leaving him sitting there. At 1 p.m., I sent the email to Diane Hartwell. At 1:30 p.m., I sent the email to the nonprofit board. Then I went back to work. Gary had a list of maintenance requests. Replace filters in Building 7, check the emergency lighting in Building 12, fix a leaking faucet in Building 3. Normal work, normal day. But my phone kept buzzing. Text from Christine. What did you do? Text from Andrew. My wife knows. How could you? Text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Diane Hartwell. We need to talk. I ignored them all. At 5 p.m., my phone rang. Christine. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. On the fourth call, I answered. What did you do? She screamed. What the hell did you do? I told the truth. You sent emails to everyone, to Jason's boss, to Andrew's wife, to my board. You're trying to ruin my life. No, I'm just making sure everyone knows who you really are. I got fired, David. They called an emergency board meeting. They fired me. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate. My career is over. Everything I worked for is gone. And for what? Because I made a mistake? You made a lot of mistakes, Christine, and now you're dealing with the consequences? I'll sue you. I'll take everything. You'll do nothing, because everything I sent was true. Every word, every photo, every timestamp. You can't sue me for telling the truth. She was crying now, hard, gasping sobs. How could you do this? How could you be so cruel? You really want to talk about cruelty after what you did to me, to Andrew, to Jason, to everyone who trusted you? I didn't mean to hurt anyone. But you did, and now you get to live with that? I hung up, blocked her number. My phone kept ringing. Andrew, Jason, numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all. That night, I sat in my empty house, drinking a beer, thinking about what I'd done. Some people might call it revenge. Some might call it justice. I just called it setting the record straight. Christine had built her life on lies, on manipulation, on making people believe she was something she wasn't, and I'd torn that down, not with violence, not with anything illegal, just with the truth. Tomorrow, I'd deal with Andrew, with the final piece. But tonight, I just sat there, enjoying the silence, enjoying the knowledge that Christine was finally facing real consequences for her actions. My phone buzzed one more time. Email from Diane Hartwell. Mr. Fletcher, thank you for your email. Andrew and I are separating. He'll be moving out this week. I want you to know that I believe you, and I'm grateful you told me the truth. No one deserves what you've been through. I hope you find peace. Diane. I stared at that email for a long time. Then I closed my laptop and went to bed. Tomorrow, Andrew. Then it would be over. Wednesday morning, I drove to Crescent Ridge. One last time. The development looked different now. Quieter. Fewer contractors. The energy had changed. I parked near the sales trailer and waited. At 9 a.m., Andrew's Audi pulled in. He got out, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. Unshaven. Clothes rumpled. The confident developer was completely gone. He saw my truck, walked over, knocked on the window. I rolled it down. What are you doing here? He asked. Came to see the damage. What damage? The damage I caused. I wanted to see it for myself. He stared at me, eyes red-rimmed. You destroyed my marriage. No, you did that when you decided to have a relationship with someone else's wife. My wife left me, took the kids, filed for separation, all because of what you sent her. I just told her the truth. The truth. He laughed bitterly. You don't care about truth. You care about revenge. Maybe, but at least I'm honest about it. He leaned against my truck, looking defeated. What do you want from me? Nothing anymore. You've already lost everything that matters. So have you. No, I lost a wife who never really loved me. You lost a wife who did. There's a difference. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, the development's failing. Inspections keep coming back with problems. Buyers are backing out. My investors are pulling funding. My career's over. That's unfortunate. Did you do it? All the sabotage? I didn't answer. It doesn't matter anymore, he said. I'm ruined either way. But I want you to know something. Christine called me last night. She's leaving Charlotte, moving to Atlanta, starting over. Good for her. She wanted me to go with her, said we could build a new life together, away from all this. What did you say? I said no, because I finally realized what she is, what you tried to tell me. She's not worth losing everything for. I started my engine. Glad you figured that out. Wait. He pulled out an envelope, handed it to me. This is from Christine. She wanted me to give it to you. I don't want it. Just take it. Then we're done. You'll never see me again. I took the envelope, set it on the passenger seat. Andrew stepped back from my truck. I hope you find what you're looking for. Whatever that is. I already found it. What? Peace. I drove away, left him standing there in the empty parking lot of his failing development. In the rearview mirror, I watched him get smaller and smaller until he disappeared. I drove to work, parked, sat in my truck, and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten, Christine's neat, precise handwriting. David, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I know you won't forgive me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to understand something. I didn't plan any of this. I didn't wake up one day and decide to destroy our marriage. It just happened, one small choice at a time, until I was so deep in lies that I couldn't find my way out. Jason made me feel intelligent. Andrew made me feel desired. But neither of them made me feel safe. That was always you. That was always what I had with you, even if I didn't appreciate it until it was too late. I know you think I'm a monster. Maybe I am. But I want you to know that I did love you. I still do. Not in the way you deserve to be loved, but in the only way I know how. I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to resist temptation. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I threw away the best thing in my life because I was too stupid to see what I had. I hope someday you can remember the good parts of us. The early years, before everything got complicated. The way we used to talk about building a life together. The way you used to make me laugh. I know you won't write back. I know this is goodbye. But I needed you to know that you deserved better. You always deserved better. I hope you find someone who sees that. Someone who appreciates what you have to offer. Someone who doesn't take you for granted the way I did. Goodbye, David. I hope you find happiness. Christine. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it, put it back in the envelope, and threw it in the glove box. Words, just words. Empty apologies that didn't change anything, didn't fix anything, didn't mean anything. I got out of my truck and went to work. Gary was in his office, reviewing contractor bids. He looked up when I walked in. You okay? You look like you've been through a war. I'm fine. If you need to take some time off, I don't. I'm good. What do you need me to do today? He studied me for a moment, then handed me a work order. HVAC system in Building 9. Tenant says it's making weird noises. I'll check it out. I spent the day working, fixing things, solving problems, doing what I do, and it felt good, felt normal, felt like maybe I could move forward after all. At the end of the day, Gary caught me as I was leaving. David, I've been meaning to tell you something. I'm retiring next month, and I recommended you to take over my position. They're going to offer it to you tomorrow. I stared at him. Seriously? You've earned it. You're the best worker I've ever had. Reliable, smart, trustworthy. The company would be lucky to have you running operations. I don't know what to say. Say yes when they offer it to you. He clapped me on the shoulder. You deserve good things, David. Don't forget that. I drove home, went inside, looked around at the empty house. Tomorrow I'd start cleaning out Christine's remaining things. Tomorrow I'd start the paperwork for separation. Tomorrow I'd start figuring out what came next. But tonight I just sat there, in the silence, and thought about how sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone else. Sometimes it's about showing them who they really are, and sometimes in the process you discover who you really are too. Thursday night, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. David Fletcher? Yeah. This is Detective Morrison with Charlotte PD. I need to ask you some questions about Andrew Hartwell. My stomach dropped. What about him? He filed a complaint. Says you've been stalking him, vandalizing his property, making threats. I need you to come down to the station. When? Now would be good. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I drove to the station, mind racing. Andrew had finally gone to the authorities. I should have expected it. Should have been more careful. But part of me didn't care anymore. Whatever happened, happened. Detective Morrison was waiting in an interview room. Mid-40s, tired eyes, wedding ring. He gestured to a chair. Thanks for coming in. I know this is inconvenient. It's fine. What do you need to know? Andrew Hartwell says you've been harassing him for the past 2 weeks, showing up at his development, following him, threatening him. Is that true? I went to the development a few times, never followed him, never threatened him. He says you told him his life was over, that you were going to destroy him. I told him he was facing consequences for his actions. That's not a threat. That's a fact. Morrison leaned back in his chair. Mr. Fletcher, I need you to be straight with me. Did you sabotage Mr. Hartwell's development? The electrical systems, the moisture damage, the vandalism? I looked him in the eyes. I'm a facilities maintenance supervisor. I know how buildings work. I know how systems fail, but I didn't sabotage anything. That's not a no. It's the answer you're getting. He studied me for a long moment. Mr. Hartwell also mentioned that you've been in contact with his wife, that you sent her information about his relationship with your wife. I told her the truth. That's not a violation. It could be considered harassment. It could also be considered informing someone that their spouse is having a relationship, which is not illegal. Mr. Fletcher, Detective, let me save us both some time. Andrew Hartwell had a relationship with my wife. He got caught. His marriage fell apart. His development is failing. And instead of taking responsibility, he's trying to blame me. But here's the thing. I didn't do anything illegal. I didn't threaten him. I didn't vandalize his property. I just made sure the truth came out. And if that makes me guilty of something, then charge me. Otherwise, I'm going home. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Then he closed his notebook. I appreciate your honesty. And for what it's worth, I don't think you did anything wrong. Not legally, anyway. But I need to tell you something. Andrew Hartwell is desperate. Desperate people do dangerous things. So if I were you, I'd be careful. Stay away from him. Stay away from your wife. Let the lawyers handle it from here. I plan to. Good. He stood up, offered his hand. I'm sorry for what you've been through. It's a rough situation, but you seem like a decent guy. Don't let this ruin your life. It won't. I left the station, drove home, sat in my truck in the driveway for a long time. The house looked dark, empty, but not lonely. Just quiet, peaceful. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Jason Brenner. I'm sorry for my part in this. For what it's worth, I quit my job today. Fresh start. I hope you can do the same. I didn't respond. Just deleted the message. Another buzz. Email this time. From Christine's lawyer, divorce papers. She wasn't contesting anything. Wanted a clean break, 50-50 split of assets. No alimony. Just done. I forwarded it to my own lawyer. Told him to proceed. The next morning, Friday, I woke up early. Got dressed, made coffee, sat on the back porch and watched the sun come up. My phone rang. Gary. David, the main office wants to meet with you today, 10 o'clock, about the supervisor position. I'll be there. At Tendru, I sat in a conference room with the regional manager and HR director. They offered me Gary's position, 20% raise, company truck, full benefits. I accepted. We shook hands. They congratulated me and told me I'd earned it. I went back to work, finished out the day, clocked out at 5. As I was walking to my truck, I saw a familiar Audi in the parking lot. Andrew was leaning against it, waiting. I need to talk to you, he said. I don't have anything to say to you. Please, just 1 minute. I stopped, crossed my arms. What? I called the authorities, filed a complaint. I know you know. Yeah. I'm dropping it. Why? Because they're right. Desperate people do dangerous things, and I'm desperate, but I don't want to be that person. He looked down at his hands. I lost everything, David. My wife, my kids, my business, my reputation, and I deserve it. I know that now. Good. But I wanted you to know something. The baby, Christine's baby. She told me the truth yesterday. It's Jason's. They did a paternity test. It's his. I felt something loosen in my chest. Relief, maybe. Or just finality. Thanks for telling me. Yeah. He got in his car, started the engine, then rolled down the window. I hope you find peace, David. I really do. I already have. He drove away, and I watched his taillights disappear down the street. Then I got in my truck and drove home. To my quiet, empty house. To my new position. To my future. Whatever that looked like. That night, I sat on the back porch with a beer and thought about the last 3 weeks. About everything that had happened, everything I'd done, everything I'd lost, but also everything I'd gained. I'd gained clarity, strength, the understanding that I was more than what Christine saw, more than just the guy who fixed things, more than furniture. I'd gained control, not over her, not over Andrew, not over anyone else, but over myself, over my own narrative, over my own future. And I'd gained peace, not the kind that comes from forgiveness or reconciliation, the kind that comes from knowing you stood up for yourself, from knowing you didn't let people walk all over you, from knowing that when everything fell apart, you were the one left standing. My phone buzzed one last time. Text from Christine. I heard about your promotion. Congratulations. You deserve it. I really mean that. I read the message, then I blocked her number. Permanently this time, because she was right. I did deserve it. I deserved good things. I deserved respect. I deserved to be seen. And now, finally, I was. The night air was cool. The stars were out. And I sat there on the porch I built with my own hands, in the house that was finally just mine. And I thought about what comes next. About new beginnings. About second chances. About building something better from the ruins of what used to be. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like mine. And that was enough.